sit somewhere.
I think if you want to come up here, just because we have the mic here.
Okay.
You can do the pledge.
Yeah, let's say the pledge first.
Yeah, we just.
You can lead us.
Hats. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Speak the hat of order. Things in the fire department.
Welcome, everybody, to our May monthly regular meeting of the EGPOA Board of Directors. I'm Patrick Cannell, Board President. I'm on Zoom today, so bear with me. I do intend to lead the meeting by Zoom, but if it becomes a little bit unwieldy, I'll ask our Vice President, Earl, who I believe is in the boardroom, to be able to take over. Before we kick off our meeting, though, we want to welcome our special guest speaker and thank him for his time in being here. Thompson Town Supervisor Bill Reber is with us just to get to say hello to everybody and see if you guys have any questions for Bill. So Bill, why don't I turn it on over to you and take it away.
Okay, so first, let me give everybody an update. I've made some notes because there's a lot going on in the town. Start with the LED light project. That's a town-wide project for conversion of every street light in the town to LED. It's a project run by the New York State Power Authority. So that we have a direct involvement, but basically a lot of the, it's been a long project, a lot longer than we thought. Essentially in Emerald Green, there used to be about several hundred wooden poles, light poles that were installed between 1972 and 74. We found about 40% of those were rotted out at the base, and gradually they're all starting to fall over. So halfway through the project, we elected to replace all of those poles, and that's being done or done. We found two cul-de-sacs, Westfield and Deerfield, which were never built out, and we added that into the project to build out those two streets. Replacing a lot of poles that have been broken off due to accidents over the years. Many of them were just buried in grass and forgotten. So where we can locate them, or where people advised us that they were missing, we're replacing them. And what we're hoping, I mean, the goal here is that every single light in the town will have a node which will communicate with each other. So if a light is out, it goes down for whatever. If there's a problem with it, it'll be reported back to a central communications facility, and we'll be able to address it within an emergency basis within 4 hours, and just for a normal repair, generally within 40 to 72 hours. Big problem. I've got a lot of complaints. We get a number of calls. Michael gets a ton of calls. My secretary goes nuts, but we're the biggest lighting project in the county for conversion. Had a lot of supply chain issues during the winter. We've had a lot of crews pulled off these jobs because of weather-related instances around the Northeast and actually down south, because these private companies that do these installations just take off when there's a storm and make it triple time, and but we'll get it done. We're hoping to close it out this summer, probably earlier. And I would ask anybody who's listening, if you have a problem with the light, if you're aware of it, Michael has a pretty good handle. Am I putting you on the spot?
No,
Yeah.
we got it. Val's got it taken care of.
Yeah, it makes our life a lot easier. This is other than the casino, actually, it is the biggest district in town for lighting, and it's an expensive one. But if you could feel, if we could field new requests for lighting through the HOA or repairs that might be noticed, Michael will take note and he'll communicate with us, and we'll get to it. It will happen.
Just so you know, Deerfield, the poles were installed.
Yeah, they
were
just went up
last week.
They just went up, yeah.
Okay, so I have a meeting Wednesday, I think, with
I was gonna tell you that.
Okay.
Just wait for you.
See, it's happening
Yeah.
little by little.
No, for sure.
North Emerald, we have some issues. A lot of it's underground cable that was moved over the years and broken by rocks and frost and whatever. So at some point, we're going to boil down, and we have the maintenance crew go in there and triage all the stuff that just isn't working, because it's a lot. Some of them might be expensive to fix to run the wire, and that'll close it out. So
Thank you. This is great timing for you all on the oversight committee. It was brought up twice by two persons. They wanted to get an update, so this is perfect timing. I think there is some clear ask and a bit of frustration because we didn't have an update of sorts. So Thank you.
Yeah, I've put out a few statements and on Facebook, and we try to be very transparent of, talk about it later. Well, I'll talk about it right now with the town. We have a very good website. I'd ask anybody there, if you want to know what's going on with the town, go to townofthomson.com. Click on the top bar. You can register for newsletters, updates, emergency alerts and everything else. It's click, and you're done. Our Facebook page is very active, very informative, and it's not stale. And we put a lot out there. We're big on transparency. A lot of you are involved in planning board, oversight and seeing what's going on. I mean, you can click on any agenda, hyperlink to any project on our planning board and see everything everything the planning board sees, the public sees. Like, we had nothing. Letters, comments, public hearing information, it's all in there. And so if you want to take the time to see it, it's extremely easy to do so. Okay, the big elephant in the room, sewer. We've got a lot of major projects going in the town, about 60 to, well, hopefully not 70, but it could be, the prices are going up like crazy. But in Emerald Green itself, we've got a pump station rehab project with infiltration repairs and redirection of flows. This is all on the eastern end of Emerald Green and Lake Louise Marie. Okay, basically half of the flows from Emerald Green and Lake Louise Marie come through the Lake Louise Marie side. Some of those pump stations were built in 1956. Some of them have overflown, in bad weather situations. And so the project there is about a $3.2 million project estimated to be now. It'll go out to bid this year. Hopefully the numbers will come in good. And we're going to rehab 3 pump stations, probably sleeve most of the sewer lines, prevent infiltration, pick up some more capacity that way. The biggest problem we have is Crescent Circle, Crescent View area, where all of the flow for that side of Emerald Green goes all the way down to the bottom of the hill on Crescent Circle. Right. And it's a tiny little pump station. It overflows every time there's a high water event. And that's going to be redirected so that
That's on the Lake Louise Marie.
on the Lake Louise Marie side, but not your district, town district.
Yeah.
No. So that's going to be corrected. So we'll redirect that flow of force main to take. We'll let that little part of the development pump into a force main and take all the major flows out of it.
What are you gonna use slip line?
Who? Probably Arrow.
No, what material?
I don't know.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about that.
You just, we've talked a lot. I'd refer you to my.
The pump station as well. You're preempting something I was gonna talk about. When you do the pump stations over, is it gonna involve any sort of containment area to try to prevent it from coming?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I really leave that in the hands of Keith and Mike. Try to look at the big picture because I'm working on financing and grants because the money is horrendous.
I'll get in touch with them and we'll.
Yeah, they're, the guys, my son Keith was deputy with Mike and they're.
Okay.
I can only drill down so far. I know a little bit about it, but learning more every day.
Tom, to that point, I apologize. I was supposed to meet with Mike last weekend, some personal stuff, so that's all.
Okay, we'll do it.
So we've got two engineering companies working on that, MH&E on the east side for the flow. The other part of the project is process on the plant, which you're pretty well familiar with. Again, an old plant built in the 60s. I think it was built in the 50s, actually. Updated in 93, 94. A lot of concrete spalling, a lot of, issues with the process, which we're addressing. We're going to increase the capacity of the plant from about 55,000 gallons a day to 400, which is not a lot, to 475,000 gallons a day, which keeps up with growth. And the driving force there is disinfection. The state and the EPA does not want chlorine disinfection anymore. So we're going to ultraviolet light, redoing the sand filter systems, a lot of flow controls, rebuilding the plants, putting another ditch in. So that it should be.
Does the increased capacity, 450,000?
No, it's only about 55,000 gallons a day. It's not a lot.
That's gonna account for everything that's here now, does it? Are you projecting for what's happening over at Avon and?
Avon is really a minimal user. They're like 5 to 10,000 gallons a day. It's really not a lot, but at this point, that doesn't look like it's gonna be well, you know, if you follow the direction of people driving your community. But, it's, you know,
So maybe I gotta talk to Mike about this also. Remember we talked years ago about that's the perfect site for doing this by gravity because there were massive electric bills pumping all over the place we are now.
yeah, I don't think you're going in that direction.
Wow.
The decisions that they're making, and that were put before us. The cost outweigh the benefits. But I'm happy to have that conversation with Mike and
Okay.
you know. I only know the town, you know, so I asked the questions, we've got concrete ditches all over the place and to remove them. Change the whole direction of the plant, I'm told it's too difficult to do, too close to do that.
Okay.
Might be true, might not be true, but it's Delaware Engineering and they're very good. I love their work.
For 20 years, so
I
I'm
love
very familiar with some of it was good and bad no matter where you're in the world, so.
Yeah, so we're trying to preserve what's there. Right now, we're looking at probably $15 million on the plant alone. And 3.2 million on the east side, and I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers go up. And we don't have any choice. I mean, the benefit here is that you have, you know, 800 or 900, how many connections you have now? 900 users in the system. Plus Frontier. Plus the contribution from the business district in Rock Hill, which doesn't use a lot of flow, but would, you know, help offset the costs. So I think the numbers will be palatable, but they're not gonna be, you know.
Are they requiring tertiary treatment at all or no? Are they requiring tertiary treatment or are they just stick with secondary treatment?
They're doing sand filters and then the SBR, redoing the blower system. I don't know if I'm giving you, you're an engineer, so.
Yeah, I don't know that Bill, I don't know that Bill's an engineer on the
I'm
super.
trying to do the overview, you know.
Yeah, we probably want to take that offline.
Well, let me interject if I can. Supervisor, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't know if you have any other points that you wanted to update folks on, but I also wanted to give an opportunity to folks who are on the Zoom, first board members. If you have any questions for the supervisor or then members of the public, please use the raise hand feature so we can identify anybody who wants to.
Okay, so I'm gonna run through my notes quick here.
Oh, great. Sorry. Yeah, thanks. I didn't mean
No,
to cut
that's
you.
okay. I just want to be, you know, I try to cover a lot of bases. We're doing
Great.
nuts. So financing on sewer, we've secured about $10 million in grants to offset a lot of this. I don't think we have any grants on the locked in yet on the east, you know, the $3 million project, but the process at the plant, we've got 6.9 million in bipartisan infrastructure money, which I got literally by sending a letter in the last day and getting it committed. And about $4 million in state and federal funding for your grants and stuff. So that's going to help a lot there.
Thanks.
The other thing, as far as the community, a little bit outside of, I mean, there's a lot of facilities here in Emerald Green, but we just officially opened our 2 newest parks in the town. We've had, now we're up to 3 parks. We're investing an awful lot of effort in upgrading our park system, starting with the one on the other side of Monticello, which is utterly phenomenal. It's got they're all water-based features now. East Mongo Park is over in Harris on the north side of Monticello. Got Lake Ida, which is in Rock Hill on Adams Road by Michael's house. And that's got a 13-acre lake. I just did it because Michael wanted a lake. No,
That facility, you and I spoke, that facility is great.
it's just
Got all
outstanding.
kinds of potential. It's beautiful over there. Definitely encourage people to get over there and check it out.
The other thing that's a big thing in my life is I see a lot of the land on the Neversink River getting acquired and being less and less available for public access. So we did have a piece of property on the river in Bridgeville, which we just opened our third park, which is the Neversink River Access Park. So you can go in Fallsburg with a kayak and take out down at the pumps in Bridgeville. You can access the river for fishing. We had a fly fishing, one of our guys in the sewer department, Jonah Lagruda, did a fly fishing demonstration yesterday down there. We had about a dozen people and got a kid on the water fishing before he left. You know, it's really, really nice and it's good access. And my focus is really on building permanent public access to the river, because as more and more people buy it up, we're gonna see less and less access. And it's
It's a great
an act that
addition,
can't go away.
great addition.
We contracted the YMCA, and this is another thing I'm big on is, and we're gonna provide quality swim instruction for 84 kids this summer. And it's a pilot program we did. The town put up $10,000 into the YMCA to do this. And it's not part of the camp program. It's open to anybody in town, first come, first serve for children. I want to get every kid that can be available to do it, to learn how to safely swim and protect themselves. I see too many, it's just way too many drownings in the area. And
Thanks.
it's, that's a big thing. Our camp program for children who really need it, and it's affordable. Raise the price a little bit this year because it does cost quite a bit of money to run it. But we update, increased capacity. There are 225 kids from 200, so it's people now. We're running a tremendous number of youth and adult social programs: Zumba, flag football, basketball, skiing, yoga. Got a Bronx Zoo trip for 2 busloads can sign up for like $15, and we'll do a Bronx Zoo trip this year. Snowshoe hiking events. You had one in Emerald Green. We did one at Lake Ida this year. Did one at the other park in Paris. Kickball, Halloween treats and trails, which we had 800 people at last year, which was Halloween event on the river over in the Harris Park. It's just phenomenal. Got great people.
So much
Sorry,
fun,
yeah.
great event.
Just for people listening and they hear something they're interested in that you mentioned,
Mhm.
check the town website. Is that the best place to go?
Oh, yeah, kind of your Parks and Recs for anything like this.
Okay.
And you can always link through Town of Thompson Oak. It's really easy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
We have monthly meetings with people handling it, and yeah, we're right on top of it.
And for folks on Zoom, I just posted that link in the chat.
Great. Other thing I'm doing is a lot of kids in our camp system don't have access, they don't. We sit home on PlayStation. We're doing a Forestburg theater trip for the kids. We've done it the last couple of years. Ran a couple buses from Rolling V. They gave us a good deal, and we're gonna take the entire camp down to Forestburg Playhouse for the day and let them see a play. You get, do something different. General tax rates, we've been very stable in all funds. We've had tax increases every single year for the last 8, might be 9 years. Not in every fund, but in the general operating funds, they've been holding steady or reductions. I think there's probably been I don't know, I don't have the numbers actually, but there's definitely, if you compare your tax bill on the town line on taxes 8 years ago to what you got a bill for in January, you're gonna see a substantial reduction. Dollar for dollar. Fund balances are very healthy. We weathered all this COVID stuff with the casino shutting down and everything else without a blip. Nobody felt it. Nobody didn't have to cut anything. So we money or rainy day funds. Our credit rating been steady at AA2 since I've been there. Moody's rating, no issues. Every plow truck in the town is either replaced. We're building the last 1 or 2 right now. So every single truck in the town that plows your roads is brand new in the last 10 years, last 8 years. For cash, we've had no general fund debt borrowings since I've been in office. The only debt we're going to incur is the LED system in sewer and water at this point. I don't have any expectation for any debt, and we're paying down a little bit of general fund debt we have. You have to pay off in stages. You can't just accelerate it at the same time. Tax base has been rising. The business district, which we put a lot of effort in 42 by Home Depot. I mean, we've got national people, Old Navy, Marshalls coming in, and it's vibrant, it's clean. We have design suggestions for people to develop, and they've really been eager to follow it. And I think the area looks great. They're doing the road project there. We're going to have control of the center medians of both traffic circles there, so we can pretty it up and welcome people to the business district. Built out all new lighting in the district, so it's safe, bright, cheery, and it'll be, that's our tax base. We're probably generating 40% of our county's taxes in the town of Thompson. We want to keep it that way. Building department, if you have any interaction with the building department, I think it's for the most part, unless you're getting a ticket, a pleasurable experience. And if you get a ticket, we work you through it. It's just the way it is. But we're fully staffed with 4 inspectors, 2 clerks or secretaries, and it's. If there's an issue, people call me. I do get calls, but not usually they're, it's all right. They're good. We have one of the lowest fiscal stress ratings from the state in the Mid Hudson region. I mean, it's infinitesimally low. The state has 0 problems with our finances and everything else. Ramped up enforcement for code violations, serious code violations. We brought a prosecutor in from out of the area who doesn't know anybody. Comes in, does her job. We're probably moving 6 critical cases to New York State Supreme Court right now, and taking a very aggressive stature on safety, particularly health and safety violations. All that, the public shouldn't expect anything but polite and efficient service. So, questions?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Supervisor.
You're
I
welcome.
see Joel had his hand up, and then Rich Brown. Joel, you may have taken your hand down though.
No, I just wanted to thank Bill for putting the funds together to buy that park. He did a great job. He showed a lot of forethought in doing it. It's a beautiful thing, and it could have been developed. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and also the lighting project. So it really made a big difference.
Thank you. Make it a better town.
Rich?
Good morning. I'm a resident since 1987, but I am not a voting resident because my residency since 2000 has been in Florida. How can I make my voice known to our through our community, to the politicians that do not ordinarily get to see my vote?
You're doing it now. If you have an issue, you email me. I'm pretty easy.
Just by email? That will work?
Yeah.
You could still
Okay.
show up to meetings.
It's got about 40,000 emails in the system, but
All right.
Meetings.
Then I have a-
listen, so we're not required to, and way after COVID, we stream, and actually we're updating all our media access in the town as soon as the equipment comes in. For hopefully as seamless as this Zoom meetings. Planning board is operating that way. Town board, all of our boards are operating that way. You can zoom into any meeting. All you have to do is, I would suggest you really register on the website for notifications. You can get a hyperlink on every agenda for the town board. Click on it. It's the same Zoom link, and you can watch and participate and be transparent. There's very good transparency.
And you'll get weather alerts.
And you get weather alerts. Yeah, sometimes I get 6 up. I don't know who I'm saying.
All right. The second question has to do, I'm co-chair of our Emerald Green Lakes Committee. And we are researching speed, and I know that this question is going to come up. I've spoken to your highway division and parks division regarding speed of electric watercraft. There's new electric jet skis that are out, and speed limits are not part of the question for Sullivan County or town of Thompson. Do you have anything or any commentary on it?
Jet skis on the lake?
Jet skis, yeah.
Electric personal watercraft.
We only have regulations regarding gasoline engines because in the history of electronics, this capability was not available before, but the new technology allows hydrofoils and jet skis to travel 40 to 60 miles an hour. And they are a safety hazard.
Well, okay, so if you have a concern in your community with your lakes, it's got to go fun. I can't take freelancing in these HOA communities from individual people. If there's a committee, bring it to your board, let your board, your HOA board, bring it to me. I get tons and tons of requests. Oh, I need a light. I need this. I need that. Run it through your HOA because you're paying.
Understanding.
Okay,
Do you see it as a problem if we have our own regulation regarding speed?
I think he's telling you no. He's telling you no, Rich.
It took months to regulate.
Yeah, it's more governance of the board that does that.
Right.
Yeah.
They have been, I don't think he has any involvement.
No, listen, the boards probably have more power than the town, to be honest with you, in a lot of.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could do a lot.
The only way you can regulate that is to have somebody on the lake every day.
And we don't, we have no enforcement in the
Like
town.
White Lake does.
We don't have a police department in this town. I don't intend to have a police department if I'm around. Unless you want your taxes up. 25%.
no.
But I'm happy to do that. No, I have way too much investment myself in this town.
Thank you for the answer,
Thank you.
Supervisor.
You're
It is an
welcome.
issue that we're going to take up later today. Rich, thank you. Joel, you have your hand up. Again, and if we can go quickly, I want to be respectful of the supervisor's time, and we have a long agenda ahead of us, guys.
Yeah, could you put a boat in on Lake Ida, in the park, in that lake in the park there or not yet?
Back to, but not yet.
Okay.
Right now, it's passive. We're still building it out. We have bathrooms coming in, they're on order. We, like preformed concrete bathrooms, so. The answer would be not yet.
Thank you.
Parks are there forever. We're not rushing to build it out and make it a huge thing. We're taking one step at a time as we have money and pay as we go.
Speaking of parks, one last question came from the chat, which is if you could just repeat the name of the park north of Monticello that has the water features. Someone didn't quite catch that earlier.
East Montauk Park, which is on Old Liberty, off of Old Liberty Road and on the other side of Monticello.
There we go.
Never Sink River access in Bridgeville, Lake Ida and Rock Hill. And they're all on the Parks and Recs.
And I could tell you Lake Ida and East Montauk have some great hiking trails. If anybody's interested, get in there and go check it out. Really beautiful trails, well marked, easy to navigate.
Lake Ida's not marked yet, but we just hired a
Yeah,
guy.
but it's
to do
all
that.
clear. You
Yeah,
could
you could figure it
follow
out.
through.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Supervisor. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we
We're done.
hope we're done.
Yeah, we get into warehouses and hospitals. Okay. good.
And we hope we can see you again soon. It'd be great to have you in for some updates. It'd be great to have you in for updates.
Patrick, hold on one second. We have some folks in the gallery. You want to give them an opportunity to ask?
Oh,
them?
sure. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No problem. Any questions?
Bill, just like the Godfather. Just like I thought it was out, they pulled me back here.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks a lot. Everybody have a good day.
All right.
We go to Tap New York.
Okay, great. Let's get on with the rest of our meeting now. So if we can call the board members back to order. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Before we, well, I'd ask the secretary to take the roll and confirm that we have a quorum.
Patrick.
Here.
Earl is here, Dan is here, Tom is here. I'm here. Joel's on Zoom, Arthur's on Zoom, Alana's here, Alex is here. We're all here. Huzzah.
Fantastic. Before we go on to the minutes, I just want to quickly address for the membership an issue that was raised at one of our recent regular meetings with regard to one board member's attendance. We looked into the matter. I spoke to the board member. That particular board member was having some issues with Zoom on a couple of the meetings. The board member has only missed one meeting, so the board is satisfied with the explanation. At least I am, and we don't think it's something that we really need to make any more of an issue out of. So with that, we're going to move on and have consideration of the I think it was 1623 meeting minutes, which are board members tab 1 in your board book. Has everyone had a chance to look them over, and does anyone have any questions?
No, sir. No questions. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay. Next up is an update on our capital projects. Obviously, we had a really exciting week this past week with the soft opening of the Entertainium. Big, huge thank you to our management team who not only managed us, the board, over the last several weeks as we pushed to get this done multiple times a day, having to deal with us, but for also for managing the project throughout. And kudos to the board members, past and present, who put so much into getting this, getting us to this day. There's still a little bit more work to be done on the building. We're going to talk about that, get an update on that, and we're going to plan for more of a formal grand opening this summer, which I think will be nice because we'll have certainly more folks back in the community. So if we can get maybe Michael to give us or Brittany to give us just a quick rundown of how things went Monday morning, how things have been going this week, and then I'll remind folks about the waiver forms.
Well, I think Monday morning, Dan had more to do with Monday morning. He was the one that was hanging out down there and greeting people, luring them in with donuts and coffee.
Dan the Donut Man. Thank you, Dan.
They worked it off though.
It seemed a lot of traffic has been coming in. The courts, basketball courts, pickleball courts, shuffleboard was just painted. The numbers were painted during the week. But all the courts have been used every day. Somebody has been in using them. The gym, have not heard any complaints. Most people like the gym. Some people have talked about maybe moving some equipment around to making the flow better. I just referred them to Dan. So he likes to move things around. So, but yeah, we've been having a good time. We had a couple hiccups with our access system, which was ended up being a communication issue, but it was taken care of. Luckily we had some younger people locked into the gym. You couldn't get in, you couldn't get out. They jumped out the window, come into the office. There can't be anything wrong, so I went in there and then I was locked in there. Had to slide my key underneath the door to Val to let me out. But
Why don't you go through the window?
But our gates, all of our gates are up and working also. We did arm the court gates outside. We don't have the closers. We're waiting on the gate closers, heavy duty gate closers for all the gates. So the gates are offline for right now until we get the closers. A lot of the gates still had the manual mechanisms to open and close the gates. So we were getting calls that the gate won't open. Well, the card worked. You just had to flip the manual part open to get in. So that's been a little confusing. So we'll leave the gates unlocked for right now. Probably another week or so, and then they'll be all armed up. But we have heard no complaints, really.
Mike, about the gates, now, have we thought what happens when someone runs the gate and or breaks the gate? I mean, what's that process looking like? Do you have
What gate are you talking?
any gates? Like running through a gate and that gate, the functionality gets broken because someone just wanted to run the gate.
We're talking about like court gates, not like gates you would like drive through.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking.
Yes, yes. But
That would be impressive.
once that gate is working, there is mechanisms in place to get it right back together quickly. It's no different than a toll gate. It's the same exact thing. So we ran them a few times, you know how that.
It's already right.
Yeah, I'm more worried about if it's broken, how
Who's
can
gonna pay
we,
for it?
yeah, I mean, what measures are we gonna put in place, hold people accountable, our peers, residents, the community?
If it's.
Yeah, we've had problems with that before. We have cameras.
Okay.
And then we, call back and, hey, Michael, you ran through the gate. The Teflon screws are about 80 cents a piece and
Yeah. I knew the answer, I just wanted to make sure it was verbalized.
Yeah.
It's being monitored and we gotta take care of our community.
the one thing now, we are heavily caring. Most of our areas are, pretty much you can see everything, what's going on, pretty nicely.
Anything else on the entertainment? I just wanted to put a couple bullets in as well.
No,
Joel has his hand up, Dan, so let's recognize Joel for a second if he's got a question.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook, somebody suggested that maybe we put like a water fountain in or maybe a water cooler in for people. I don't know if you might want to do that, like in the basketball area or in the weight room. I don't know if it's worthwhile or not.
I thought a cooler was a good idea. I heard that too.
You know, I wouldn't go with a fountain because that'd just be too, but a water cooler and, you know, some cups and a garbage can on the side shouldn't be too bad. Me, I bring my own water, but everybody's different.
Michael, is
I
that
see
part of the
Dan has
planning?
his hand up.
Yeah, what's that? Where the water fountain is on backwater, it's the same fountain that's over at the pool. Goes
Okay.
in between the two bathrooms.
Oh, so we,
Yeah.
and that's enough.
Is that
Perfect. That's
And
great.
They call the
That's great.
office instead of asking on Facebook,
The
they'll give you a
plumbing
quick answer.
Yeah.
I know.
Does that fountain allow for a bottle fill ups?
Yes, just like, it's the same exact one at the pool.
That's great.
Michael, that's not an insignificant point you just made about if folks have questions about these issues, please, there's no real record of it or monitoring the unofficial Facebook account. Please call the office, make sure that you let Michael know if you have a question. A lot of great questions from our community members. So, but if they're not communicated to the office, we really don't have any way of necessarily knowing what's going on. Otherwise, it's effectively just rumors. So please keep that in mind.
Hey, Patrick, I want to recognize Dan. He has his hand up.
Yeah, Dan.
All right, so, yeah, as Michael said, the soft opening of the entertainment did go well. I felt like we had a lot of good feedback from the homeowners. Just some bullets, some things that we would like to look into and we'll share with the board, to possibly update and give, some more accessibility terms. So, the Wi-Fi in the fitness center currently does not seem to work, so I'd like to work with Michael on trying to get that system up and running. People can't really go in there and get any access to any of their music, so we want to try and get that up and running. Ironically, there's been some feedback between the one that Michael referred to me, the homeowner, and myself. We had some alignment on some things, so most fitness centers have a key rack where you kind of hang your keys, so we need to get something like that in place for the homeowners. Cubicles or possibly lockers should be in play. If people are coming into the fitness center and they got a jacket or whatever, we should have somewhere to put some of their clothing. Michael brought up the door on the left side, seems to be an issue right now, so hopefully we'll work with Dennis or whoever we got to get out there to fix that. Somebody did bring up the water. So there is a fountain going in between the restrooms there. Also, I had some thoughts on adding vending machines. If we can work with like Prestige vending or whatever, possibly get some drink and snacks in there. Cindy, when I was talking with Cindy in entertaining, she brought up a piece of equipment she would like to see us invest in there. It's called a T-Rex. It's not expensive at all, so we could look into.
T-Rex, it's not, a T-Rex is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
T-Rex.
TRX. It's not expensive at all. It's a resistance system, so something that we could look into adding, but it's really good because homeowners are coming forward and saying, hey, what about adding this? What about adding that? A lot of the things that they're putting out there are not very expensive. But it's good. It's a good conversation point, and personally, I'm ecstatic that we got to this point where we can have people come to us and ask for things because the building is officially open. So, great job to Michael and the staff and Brittany, Valerie, everybody did a fantastic job in trying to get this day to come to fruition. and Hal got a hand up.
Yeah, I just want to again, thank everybody for making this happen, bringing this to fruition. Michael, Brittany and everybody else. The staff did a fabulous job. I know we were breaking chops for a while, but comes with the turf.
We didn't get it done any quicker.
I don't know.
Can I make a suggestion?
I just had one issue I want to bring up, and we're not going to make a decision now. I just want to throw it out there, something to think about. The West Wing. I know there's been a lot of talk. What are we doing with the lower level West Wing? I think it's a pretty inexpensive thing if we put a pool table, ping pong table, maybe even a foosball table down there. Make some good use out of that room.
You just gotta go back and remember the visions that were put across to the community.
Yeah.
What we had promised, that was downstairs was supposed to be a card room set up for the card players for Mahjong, those things, because usually in the summertime, they do meet every night during the week, except Fridays and Sundays.
But that could still be done in the pool house.
Now, can I say something?
But that, I'm just.
No, I'm just saying,
You know, what
we could certainly offer that amenity to people.
The
Just,
thing that's over at the pool house
Hold on.
is the room is very echoey.
I think he got the impression when we said no, you do get the chance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay.
You had, like Michael was saying, we had two beautiful pool tables with the equipment.
Mhm.
I think it lasted about a week. The kids went in there, ruined everything.
I think
You know,
Space, as far as space goes, I mean, what would the space look like with a couple of card tables and possibly a pool table?
Could we put pool table, foosball table, ping pong?
No, you can't do all. You can't do.
I think
Alright.
you have all the classes.
This is something for committees.
And I-
Okay, let's-
yeah, that's why I said, make that decision. I just wanted to
Let's-
throw it out there.
let's-
Let me, yeah, let me just take control for a second and suggest this. There's a lot of programmatical questions that we'll need to answer. And we have a little bit of time as we're working towards substantial completion of the rest of the building to get that done. So board members, why don't we schedule a Zoom workshop soon and we can kind of work through all of those issues and ideas, make better use of our time today. And then when we get towards substantial completion, we'll have things to announce to the community probably at our next regular board meeting. Does that sound fair?
Hold
Okay.
on 1 second, Patrick, Ms. Alon.
I just wanted to make a suggestion that might be helpful, since the people that are using the space often have the best suggestions. Maybe we could put a tab on our website for suggestions specific to the entertainium that are coming up as they come. And then I'll be happy to make another QR code if you want to post it on the way out that says anything top of mind, we'll fill it out, and then we could all house that in one place. You wanna do that?
I think that's a brilliant idea. And Alana,
Everybody says,
thank you for volunteering.
That's the right one.
Thank you for volunteering to work with Brittany to get that done.
One more thing, speaking of QR codes, it's important for us to remember that while when you scan that QR code for your waiver, it is instantly that you fill out the form and the form gets to the office. There is someone that has to facilitate making your card able to use the gym. So if you fill it out on a Friday afternoon after office hours, it's not going to be active for the gym until that Monday morning. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Good point.
Should we
you.
make that as
Great.
an announcement?
Yeah,
Great point.
I put it in the
I think we should,
email,
yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great point and a great transition because I want to remind folks that use of the entertainium and the fitness center require you to complete a waiver and release form. Alana was very helpful in creating a QR code for the more technologically advanced who can access that form. But as Brittany points out, sometimes entering that information in doesn't, because somebody has to review that information and then switch on your access for those facilities. It's not always instantaneous. So bear with us, but even if you're not technologically advanced and aren't using the QR code, you can get the waiver and release form in the office during regular office hours. Everyone has to have one on file for your fob cards to be activated for those facilities. It's just a liability issue that we need to enforce. And so I want to remind folks about that. Michael, can I ask you about, I think when we talk about towards substantial completion of the building, I think the elevator is probably the one big item that prevents us from opening the rest of the building. Is that right? And do you have an update on that?
The Otis is, Otis is scheduled to come the second week in June to finish the whole inspection. So it should be done within the next 2 weeks. 3
Okay,
weeks.
so is the ladder there, or do they have
put
it?
the ladder, they put the ladder
Okay, so if they're coming second week in June, they know that they've got to have that done, right?
in. Yes,
And that inspection is by a third party, right?
yes, they scheduled the third party to come in. And when they get here.
So once that's done, and assuming it passes second week of June, are there any other tasks remaining to be completed in the building that would prevent the town from giving us the complete CO or temporary CO even for the remainder of the
Well,
building?
the temp is in place. The one we would have a problem with is the full CO. And that's because of the blacktop. The top coat has to be put on the blacktop to bring the blacktop up to specs so you can get in through the front door. That
And
would be the only issue left.
okay, and have you started? I'm sure you have, because I know you have. But if you could just let folks know the punch list for the entertainment building, and I know it's a separate item on our agenda, but for the pool house too, do we have that running list together? Or are you keeping that somewhere?
Yeah, on my desk,
Okay,
in a file.
and what's the plan for having DNC execute on that?
The plan is right now is, because the weather is nice as well, we're going to be moving forward on getting the punch list on. Making backups to, having the punch list taken care of if it isn't taken care of properly by the contractor. So, and if you guys see anything that you think needs to be on the punch list, because we all notice different things. If things become, you guys may notice that yellow container sitting in the front yard here. We don't notice it because we walk by it every day. It's
Do you,
become part of the
is it
landscape.
worthwhile for you to share the punch list with the
Exactly.
board, so we're not inundating you with repetition?
We could do that. Brittany's talking about, she wants to take me into the 22nd century.
Google Docs?
The Google Docs. Whoa.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And on that this week, last week, so I guess we're gonna start that. Somebody's gotta help her get there, but we're gonna start doing that because we found that also that'll work better for our office staff with some things that are going on.
That's great. Thank you, Brittany, for that suggestion. We need a living document. Okay, so I just want to,
Hold on
yeah.
one second. Want to recognize
I
Alex. I
have a
apologize.
question.
sorry,
The
Alex.
temporary CO, is there a time limit on that?
No.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting is.
It's Monday, May 22nd, 2023.
Thank you.
No, it's not.
It's not, we really don't need to have the second coat put on right away.
No,
We still,
we still
I know
have,
that we're running a little behind in funds and stuff like that, and we could run into
Delay it a little bit.
next year.
well, we can play all that out once the finance committee looks at that.
Can I ask,
Hold on, Chris. Go ahead.
on the, so for the second floor is, so we're not gonna be able to use the second floor until the elevator inspection is done, is that?
You could go up on the second floor now if you want to.
Does the CO cover that? Is that?
Yeah,
is
that you can get up, you just can't get there through the elevator.
Okay, but it is accessible to members at this point. Okay, that's good to know.
You can walk up the stairs, go up there. We did find out that we made a huge mistake here in this construction of the office side, because the track runs over Val's office. That's not spray foamed.
It's interior.
Or insulated, so.
Found Anthony.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, so just one last point quickly on the pool house. I wanted to let folks know, to the extent you don't know already, the two pieces of equipment that were promised to be left there were accidentally moved over to the Entertainium Fitness Center, have been moved back to the pool house. Michael, what are those two pieces of equipment again? I can't remember.
Optical
And an upright.
and an upright bike.
Okay. So those are over there if folks want to use them. But for folks who have accessibility issues, of course, the fitness center at the Entertainium is open, and that's on the first floor, so no accessibility issues there. One quick piece of board business, it seems a little out of place, but because it relates to our capital projects, folks, the June 2023 assessment amount is coming due. I just wanted to confirm, well, management also wanted to confirm the board's intentions with regard to the payment plan. So this is tab 2 in your board books. Basically, the bills to folks will read pay in full, $725 now, but for folks who wish or need a payment plan, you have to contact the office. There won't be an election necessarily right on the form, so which is consistent with what we planned earlier. And you can see here, so there would be a $100 service charge for quarterly payments, which is the June payment of $363 down, and then payments of $154 in August, October, and December. That's management's proposal. I think that's a reasonable proposal. That's a good way to handle it. Otherwise, it becomes a lot of unwieldy record keeping for our office. And it's consistent with what we planned for and announced to the community, in my opinion. So does anybody have any questions on that?
No, but I think it's a good point of clarification that I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, making that June 1st payment would allow a homeowner to be current to access the pool for the summer. And then the August payment would allow people to be on target to vote during the annual election, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And the other thing is, I want to get out there to remember it's June 1st, however, June 1st is only a couple days away. It's billed June 1st, it's not due until the 30th. So there is time there, you know, there is a timeline there, because we're going to get inundated with calls, because their statement is going to say June 1st. Due June 1st, and we just got it. So we'll try to spearhead that with a little note on the statement and try to, you know,
And I've
cut
learned,
down those complaints.
and I've learned personally that you can actually just go ahead and prepay, and it'll bring your account negative, and it'll just continue to come up, so.
So for the August payment, then because it's tied that month to the voting, that probably you will not get, if you're on the payment plan and don't pay within the first week when the votes go out, you should probably plan to come into the office to pick up your ballot.
Usually what happens if someone's on like a payment and they, like with the quarterly payment for the last time that we did it for the. What would happen is we would contact the people to say that you paid your bill, you have your packet, you have to, do you want to come into the office? Do you want us to mail it to you? How do you want to handle it?
Yeah, that's.
Joel has his hand up.
Yeah, as far as, because I know somebody just texted me that they were over at the gym and the security guard was there. So I imagine that once the pool opens, the security guard will go to the pool. So I'm just curious, is the place that they'll be able to monitor the gym and the Entertainium from the pool house with cameras and go vice versa type of thing? Is that
Joel, that's a little later in our agenda, so I'm just going to ask you to hold that question.
No problem.
Because we
No
do
problem.
intend to have a full discussion about that. There are some
No
decision points we need to address.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so if there are no other questions on the payment, the payment plan as proposed by management, I just ask for a quick motion and we'll vote on it.
I move. I
Second.
second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right. we're
We'll get
gonna-
working on that tomorrow to get that sent out so everyone can have their bill.
Thank you so much.
Unless
All
you
right.
think-
Speaking of the pool, as we announced at our last meeting, the pool will be opening June 10th this year, which is earlier than in the several past years, earlier than the Father's Day weekend. And it was a compromise between, Memorial Day and Father's Day, frankly. And it is approaching quickly. So wanted to talk with management about steps to getting the pool open. And Hal, I know you had a specific question about whether the cover has come off and that sort of stuff. So Michael, can you update us on that?
Cover has not come off. We are waiting on the pool company, Watson Pools, to come and get this stuff up and running.
Are we still on target for June 10th? Sorry.
I was never on target for June 10th, but we're quickly looking for that.
Is there anything we can do to support you? And I don't mean badgering you. Is there anything we can do to support you to get you?
There's
to get there?
nothing, we're waiting on somebody else.
Okay, but you're not waiting on any decisions from us to get.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's the. As things are going in the area, they're from upstate, they're having the same problem everybody else is having, employee issues. So last week I offered our employees to assist at least one of their people. So, they're pulling somebody out of retirement to come down and get this going. That's what it is. It's an employee issue where they can't get something.
Can we just take a peek to see? how
Oh,
bad
he's
it is?
peaked. He's peaked. Anthony's peaked. I'm sure he's peaked. Because there's not a crisis. If it was something that had to be taken, it would have escalated a lot higher, a lot quicker. The problem is those toys are great. That's what holds us up, is somebody's gotta come and put all of that.
Well, we could open the pool, just,
Now, please, we're not to that point. I can't do that until we get in there and take a look. But you can't open the pool without those fixtures in.
Can we make a commitment that if we don't hear, if we can't solidify them here by the week before, that will at least notify the community that it might be pushed off? Can we?
Sure.
Okay, so by June 3rd, if we're still up in the air, let's just put out a notice that.
Sure.
All right, but I think it is the board's expectation that we push to get it done for the 10th. That's what we promised the community, and we want to make sure we do everything in our power to strive for that. Okay.
I'll bring donuts.
Yeah. I'll bring the rosé. All right. We wanted to talk a little bit.
Just, you, from the schedule later. If you get open by the 10th, you're the real hero.
We were talking among the board members a little bit about seating areas at the pool, and I know management has started to take steps to look at potentially replacing some of the older equipment. I'm not sure, Dan or Michael, maybe you guys want to kick this off briefly, but is there a discussion to be had right now on replacement furniture?
So Michael and Anthony had partnered up. They found a manufacturer and a provider to update some of the seating at the pool area. We could say that a lot of the seating is inadequate and there's not as much as there really could be. If we remember last year, there was probably, I want to say 4 or 5 tables under that pavilion, and not enough chairs to really start seating everybody. So management's looked at some alternatives to update the seating area. I've forwarded that information to the board on May 8th. So they have that. It comes with an expense. But that was something that I was prepared to talk about a little later on, once we get into some of the financials, but. We do have, I personally have a little bit of an opinion on how we can. Finance some of these tables, if we want to talk about that now. But the tables are about 12, we'll say 1,300 a piece. And we could use about 12 of them to complete the full seating area under the pool pavilion. If we wanted to split it up, we could buy a couple here, a couple there, but that's what it looks like, and they're commercial picnic seats.
Let me ask you something, I was at Home Depot the other day, and they had these benches, tables, picnic tables,
Lifetime.
yeah, and they were on sale, $149. You don't need to buy chairs, I mean, it comes in with the benches and everything.
Yeah.
No,
I'm gonna say, as an ambassador of that, those are not commercial, and I would not put them.
By the way, there was like umbrellas that flew into the pool and onto homeowners for, like, there's just like safety things in terms
So,
of that, like, we have to. Yeah.
If we could recirculate that email, we'll provide it. I know Michael has copies. It's a hexagonal table. And it does offer seating as well. And these are 20+ year tables. So something that we would not have to invest in, again, for quite some time.
Can I say something? Because that's a hard, for me, when I'm looking at that, it would be easier in making a yes or no decision on those, because clearly that seems like a good idea, right? But I would like to see in 3 years from your perspective, what are broadly 5 to 10 things that we will need to update and manage, whether it's garbages outside, the loungers, the tables, so that we can actually say, is this the best thing for the TNC money right now? Or is it a combination of a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, so we could see a little bit more of a is that really the high priority for now, is replacing that, or there are some other things on that list?
There is, because the seating, the lounge chairs have all been restrapped.
Okay.
That's been done. The picnic tables, the lifetime tables, which is what we have now, they are not. Those tables we have are good tables. They're starting to, they dry rot over time. The seats get. The problem is with the newer lifetime tables, they're not built as well as the first lifetime tables, and they're starting, we've had we've had a couple collapse on people. When you get a lot of people on them, it's only supposed to hold a certain amount of poundage or tonnage, depending, so.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. So they do collapse, so,
We hold community until the end.
Thank you.
so those are the things that we do need to, update.
Those tables are, I mean. They're not aesthetically pleasing at all, aesthetics.
The ones that are there.
But the structure of them they're wobbly, they're not adequate. And every time a chair breaks, you now have less seating, but you may have tables, and now you gotta buy alternative chairs, and you start getting mix and match, and then it kind of snowballs into a thing. So the seating has really just been, and I really like Michael and Anthony's alternative with that hexagonal table. It's all inclusive, everything's in one, and you have a long tenure of.
And it's commercial.
Yeah.
And no storage issues over the winter.
All right, hold on, thanks, Kristen.
I was actually checking for Joel.
Okay, Joel?
Yeah.
I just heard from somebody that the tables, like, that you can't play mahjong or cards, I guess, at the pre-built tables. I don't play either one, so I can't comment. I got a text from somebody about that, so I don't know if anybody has any ideas about that. I think she was saying more to go with what we had, like a round table and individual chairs might be a little bit better, but I also understand the chairs break, so just a thought. And also, are we thinking about buying more lounge chairs? Because I believe there was shortages last year, and as our community is growing, that's only gonna get worse.
The lounge chairs were taken care of during the winter because the ones that still had to be restrapped were restrapped. So there's more lounge chairs there this year.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
We're kind of not talking about the seating tables, we're talking about the picnic tables.
Okay,
Is
fine.
this proposal is for is the picnic table.
Yeah, and I think you should, the ones that we saw the pictures of, you should be able to play cards and
Yes.
mahjong at
There
that.
should be.
Yeah.
So in the email that I sent, you have the option of going with the hexagonal tables, or you have the old fashioned or normal picnic tables that you have the rectangle ones. I would say it looks like you may be able to get more seating with the hexagonal tables, and the way you can set those up in clusters.
It's also more conducive to what Michael said, people
Do you
playing
wanna vote
cards.
now, or do you want us to?
Well, let me just kind of talk about some of the finances behind this, right? So, since January 1st, the association has taken in $28,050 via transfer fees for 14 homes and 9 lots. Our assessment's given us the ability to spend paying down our debts for use on the project or the future projects associated with the projects. Based off our trends, we could expect another $52,000 in transfer fees for this year. If we follow our commitment and pay down the debts or the loan payment through the Wayne Bank, out of that would be another $34,000. So we could offset that and still see $46,000 through transfer fee payments that we could make. In this plan, I mean, this would cost us about $18,000 maxed out. Do we have to do that now? No, but should we offer some sort of seating prior to the June 10th opening? And then if we decide to, continue to make payments and offer more tables down the line, we have that ability. So my thoughts were we purchase half of what we think, and then have that set up in time for the pool opening. And down the line, if we want, say, first couple of weeks, we see what the seating looks like and move on from there and make another decision as we need. Is that something that,
Chris?
So. I think we need to get, I think I agree with the principle, we need to have seating. I question whether drawing from TNC is in the spirit of the revised capital assessment that the members approved back in the fall. We can look at the language but I think that members were approving the board use of TNC, which normally can only normally use TNC with the member vote. That's not a free fund for us to use at will.
It is
Up
up to 17,000.
I just think that the members approved that in the spirit of finishing the actual construction of the facilities and or paying down debt early. And this strikes me more as an operating cost. It's regular updating and replacement of equipment. It's an operating cost, not a capital cost. So I want to be mindful of how
this would actually be a capital expense.
That's debatable.
That I'm just raising a question that, the members, I think the members voted for that in the spirit of giving us flexibility and having money available to finish the project.
Yes.
And to possibly pay down the debt early.
Agreed.
We do need to pay money to make sure the facilities are usable. I'm not trying to be kind of curmudgeonly about that. I think it's a letter and spirit question for me.
So obviously the intention with the assessment plan, and obviously I know a lot about it because I kind of put the language in there, but the language was to pay down the debt, and we are not deferring from that plan. So the plan is to pay down the debt. One extra payment is what we kind of verbalized as a board. So if we make our additional payment of $34,000 and we still have funds available, why would we not give back to the community what it deserves?
Well, hold on. I don't think there's an insinuation that
Yeah,
we're not giving back, and it's not that they don't deserve it. I think one of the things that Alana brought up we probably need to workshop this
Yeah.
and come back with a plan that we've all agreed upon. Where we can get alignment from the community. Patrick, what's your thoughts on that? I think you're both right, but I also don't want to give the impression that anyone on this board is not going to do the best they can with the sincerest intent to putting the community first. So I don't necessarily agree that we wouldn't. I just think this needs to be workshopped first.
Yeah, I just think. I understand where both are coming from. I just think that this is part of our capital project. This is the initial project. We haven't really bought any furniture to sustain greater use and an expanding community at the pool. So the fact that we didn't do it yet doesn't mean that it's not within the scope.
I agree, but I just think because we don't have consensus, that we need to get consensus.
Well, I think that's what kind of the vote is about.
I'm also not saying that I'm not opposed to taking the vote, and I'm not saying we don't have consensus, I'm just.
No,
Yeah, no,
and he's sharing his thoughts.
And-
That's perfect.
And I think buying 50% of what we think might be the right number is probably the prudent approach,
Yeah,
because
we're
we're
not-
not
we're not
spending
doing it
money
all.
that we don't need to spend.
Mhm.
Patrick,
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to recognize Joel and then I'll go.
oh,
Joe,
I apologize. I didn't see him. I apologize. My fault, Joe.
So I just brought up the point, like, we're gonna need stuff in the entertainment, like we're gonna need some furniture there, so I'm in favor of doing all this stuff. I think we just might want to wait a little bit to see how everything plays out. You know, maybe just do it in smaller bites. So that's it.
There's
So-
not an issue with this being discontinued, so from year to year, we'll have like 3 mismatching pieces over that, that's something that stays continuous in the catalog.
That was what I had thought about. I didn't share that thought. But
Okay.
I don't know.
So Lonnie, your
Bless
thoughts,
you.
we can do it. in parts.
Well, I would,
No,
bringing up a point about doing it in piecemeal, which is, sometimes things are discontinued. Do we want to have like a Mickey Mouse look, or do we want to do it all in one shot, or, however?
Exactly what we have going on right now.
So do we want to workshop this maybe this week, so it's done?
That's kind of where my mindset is. I'll defer to you, Patrick. I think we need to do something. The question becomes, if we put it for a vote, are we understanding what is gonna come out? I think we need to do something, but I think the other thing that Joel brings up is there's also some things that need to be finalized in the entertainment as well. So,
I think the most important part is homeowners now know that we want to give quality seating area at the pool. So we've crossed that road now with communicating about this, and now it's on the radar, and hopefully I would expect that we have already made the decision prior to the next meeting, and we can say that
this is what we're doing.
this is already done and this is what we've decided.
Yeah, and let me just throw something out. Understand that if we're going ahead with doing anything like this at the pool, that's a little more urgent than adding things in the entertainium, which probably is gonna get used as much in the summer,
I would agree with you.
so there's a time frame.
If the pool is opening on the 10th,
Just to go on the other side of this, like, I'm not sure what else we're gonna learn from a workshop. In the sense that, like, we know that Danny's done the research, we know what the cost of the item is. I mean,
I haven't done it.
well, Michael's done the research, and I'm happy to vote for maybe half of that authorization right now, like a $9,000 authorization.
Is that in the form of a motion? Well, hold on.
You can't really do that, but
I would, well, I think, Dan, you can get the privilege of the motion, is you kind
You
of
brought
brought
it
this
up,
to
yeah.
the table, so I don't want to steal your thunder on that.
so motion to approve the expense of tables.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
too general. Yeah, we're too general.
It's the expense of tables.
At 9,000 from the TNC.
Yes.
There we go.
I'll second the motion.
All right,
Okay.
Patrick, here we go.
Well, is there any debate on it? I mean, I just, for what it's worth and for the record, I'm in favor of it. I defer greatly to Dan's review of the numbers. I do take Alana's point, though, that we want to make sure we're not getting something that'll be discontinued, next year. Is there an urgency to doing this year?
I would say absolutely.
Okay.
There's not enough seating in the pavilion area.
Just to also clarify on that point, these are from Uline catalogs, right? So like typically, I mean, it's more rare that they would, right?
Just-
So they would
yeah.
discontinue from year to like, yeah.
I would just say, with the vote, we're gonna ask management to follow up with Uline and say, what's the timeline of these tables? And do you see,
They deliver the next day.
no, and do you see an issue with us placing a second order down the line and these tables not being available?
Okay.
If we can have that conversation with Uline and get a definitive answer, that would be helpful, I think, because that sounds like some of the roadblocks we're looking at.
Sure.
Okay, Joel has his hand up. Joel?
Yeah, so with the number of tables that we're talking about, you're gonna be putting them underneath that slotted area that basically people use for shade. Will people be able to still be able to sit there with lounges and stuff? Is my only question.
Yeah,
They would
because
never sit on them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
there's space.
Yeah, there's-
Yeah, because we have so many tables
Yeah.
there now, we're increasing the number.
We're going under like an L.
Yeah, it's an L. We have space, Joe.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or debate? We have a motion on the floor, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Alex, you good?
No, good.
All right.
Any abstentions?
I gotta go.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm having a hard time hearing.
No, no, that's cool.
Good job, Dan. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any recusals? No, the motion passes. All right. Thanks, Dan, and appreciate you walking us through that. We had a proposal, board members, that you saw now a couple months ago from Lloyd Kurth and his partner, Mike. Sorry, Mike, I'm just not drawing your last name off the top of my head, to do a hot dog wagon at the pool this summer. I asked Lloyd to be here to present his plan and proposal for the board's consideration. Unfortunately, he has another meeting and couldn't make it. The only amount of detail, I don't say only, that's unfair, but the amount of detail that I was able to get is that they would be doing hot dogs, small bags of chips and soda and water, prices according to market value of the food itself. I didn't frankly get a straight answer on whether they have or would be required to have a vending license of any kind. And they would be doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, at least in the beginning, during the pool hours. That's their idea. It sounds like a sort of frankly, a small operation. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it, assuming that they're able to execute any permits that they need, that they provide an indemnity for the association and a hold harmless, which shouldn't be a problem for them. But without a lot of detail, that's unfortunately all I know about it. And the applicant isn't here to make the proposal. So whether we decide to take that up or not, leave that to the collective body. Does anybody have questions or thoughts or any motions?
A lot of course.
Do we have a plan for a cost sharing? Like, are they giving us and my recommendation would be, if that is something that we want to entertain, that it not be off of a percentage, that it would just be so that we're not looking at their receipts. It's just a dollar amount for every day that they're on our property, and we get that regardless of what they get.
So just our accounting strategy, we can't generate revenue unless it's for member use only. So just keep this in mind.
So we put it into like T&C.
So if Michael Hoyt opened a hot dog wagon outside the pool house this summer, and we charged him $1,000 a week, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that came in as revenue.
Mhm.
The revenue streams would have to be only through member use only. So we can't have people coming in off of 17 that don't live here
Oh.
buying hot dogs.
Got it.
So that goes along with our 501c4.
Does that make the approval complex because they're not?
Doesn't make it complex, but also just saying is, are you a member?
Show us your pass.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, where it's set up, we would have every reasonable basis to believe that it's only for the members anyway, because we're not going to let non-members or their guests into the pool area. To your point, though, Alana, when on other organizations I'm involved in, we would never do something like this without a rev share or a lease, a license fee, some kind of revenue spot for our organization lending out the space. With a hot dog cart, I'm not sure even, I think your point about percentages is right on. That's just too difficult. And frankly, probably not even worth the record keeping. I don't know whether a flat fee makes sense. I don't know whether, sort of a rental charge, kind of the same thing. But even a daily rev share might be sort of not enough to make it interesting for us and not too much to operate really for a small hot dog wagon. But I just don't know. I don't know the economics of what they're proposing. So it's sort of difficult to weigh in on that. But as an ethos, I think we should have some sort of cost.
In the past, we used to have the,
Snack Shack.
there's not many people on here who know the Snack Shack, there. There was a lot of vendors that have come in to try to do things. We've never charged them for any space. It was just a benefit to have the membership, receive whatever they were serving. It just wasn't cost effective. Usually whatever's there takes off good the first 1 or 2 weekends. It's usually July 4th weekend. They do great sales and then down to nothing. So
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a pretty cool idea because we've spoken about vending machines in the pool area. And we can't really seem to get that up and running because you don't have a vendor who's willing to do it because it's only a 2-month period. Having been in the food business, they really do need a health department permit to do
That's
this,
what I was gonna say.
which is also going to mean running water wherever they are because they're not going to get a health department permit. If it's just a cart, then no, but we don't know what they're looking to do here. So, but also the economics of it. I mean, if we're gonna charge them anything, it's gotta be a really nominal fee. I think like $100 a month kind of thing, and it'll cover any cost to the community, but otherwise, they're not gonna be making money doing this.
So one, I have a restaurant. You have no choice but to have a health certificate. That's non-negotiable. But you don't need running water, really. It's just on a couple of wheels. My thought would be anything that is too absorbent for them not to do this would actually hurt us. This is just to enhance the experience at the pool. So if it's something like $50 a weekend or 25, it shouldn't be a major hurdle for them. And then we're gonna test it out. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, they're not gonna come back anyway. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Or we could waive the fee altogether in favor of reduced pricing for our members.
Well, I was just gonna say, the market of it is that any cost that any revenue that the association collects is just gonna be passed on to the market price of the stuff they're selling. So it's not, we're talking about a nominal fee, like, I think it's kind of an up down either way on whether we want the cart there or not. I feel like the revenue is probably, it's a nice idea, but I feel like it's being too clever by half and it's not gonna be that much money.
Yeah.
I think just let's test the experience out. I mean, I think the experience alone means a mother won't have to run home and get some food for their kids and then in the middle of enjoying a day at the pool. So I think
I would say
and donuts, you're horrible.
Patrick, I think you make a good point on the members piece. I mean, I guess the one, if it's inside the pool area, then that's another thing. I guess the location would matter, and then the last thing I want is this driving traffic, non-member traffic through the community. People hear that there's like a cheap hot dogs. I'm like, it's not really a good thing to make Lakeshore Drive.
I doubt someone's gonna come over.
I don't think
Yeah.
member of the community.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch. No one's gonna come off of 17 for $2.
So it sounds like we need more of his
Information.
input
Yeah.
and to be able to make a good decision.
But I think it's great. I think it's great.
Well, what if we approve it now on a trial basis, subject to working out the permitting issue if necessary, which I'm happy to do and work with this person, and then we just get them set up, see how it goes.
Yeah, all it is a food handler's license, depending from the Board of Health, it's nothing. Once they have that, at least we know that they understand the responsibilities of managing food.
And this location is again, the location of the unit we're talking about will be at the pool house, not over this one, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Not in
Go
the
ahead.
parking lot, they won't be in the pool.
Yeah.
All right, well, so hold on, okay.
Drive the-
So Patrick, you heard that this
Yep.
would be, he'd be set up probably outside the door in some form or fashion in the parking lot
Yeah,
of the
but
pool.
still, who, and
Okay.
as has been pointed out, who's gonna come there for a hot dog? It's the only people who are gonna be in that area to begin with are gonna be people who are members and guests.
They have to be really good hot dogs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Mr. Softy truck driving around the neighborhood. So, look, I'm happy to work with the applicant on this. What I would propose is that we do a conditional temporary start, but I would insist that they do this under a license agreement, which is our ability to control the situation and get them off if it's not working. And, there may be various reasons we might need to do that. But I also don't want to overcomplicate this. It's just a hot dog wagon, for crying out loud. And it's a good thing, as somebody pointed out, when you get a little hungry and you don't want to have to go back to the house. So that's what I would propose is a conditional yes, subject to working out the details and a real short licensing agreement with EGPOA.
I put a motion for it.
And I'll second.
Okay.
Tell them you could sell ice cream there too.
That gets,
Guys, there's a local guy saying.
Yeah.
Does,
Let's
he
just,
sets up machines.
You think you're getting an argument for?
Whatever.
no. We're all with you, Alex.
Alex, we're 1,000% on board.
We're
Let's
with
go
you.
ahead and vote.
I'm ready to eat now.
Let's go ahead and vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right.
With
Next.
that, I'm gonna duck out. I'll continue on Zoom when I get to work, okay?
Great.
All right.
Thanks,
Be
Al.
safe. Thank you.
All right, our next topic is the security contract and staffing. Michael, I'll turn it over to you to sort of kick off this discussion, but just as a preview for board members and the community. We have a contract with a security company, provides security services at our facilities, the pool, and now including the entertainium. And we need to figure out our staffing situation and what we're doing with that contract. So kick it over to Michael to give us an update and his thoughts and suggestions on where we go from here.
Well, it would be the same security company that we've had. And I think everybody has had experience with them. They're pretty thorough. Over the past couple, I think this will be our third year with them. Thankfully, the third year with them, the office has not had any problems. They're very helpful with people getting in who haven't. I think our collection rate has gone way up since they were there. Because if you don't, they may give you a pass one time, but the next time you come and your card still doesn't work, they're pretty much sending them over here or to the pop-up office that's over there. They have been, just this week, we're staffing both facilities. Just with the startup here, and we basically need to come up with a direction on how we're gonna handle from this point on.
So what does that model look like when you look at hours? Because I mean, there is the responsibilities of the management office to be in the management office here that happens to be in the Unitarian. But is it the responsibility for the management office to manage that? Are you looking at having security?
I do
From
not
everyone.
expect my staff to go out there and be security guards.
And so,
We used to have, and it's one of the reasons we have a bathroom on this side of the building. There'd be 20, 30 people out there playing basketball, and we're talking 10 years ago. Here's Brittany walking through all these people to get to the bathroom. No, our staff is not security. However, we do have good security electronics in place now. It's not as haphazard as it used to be.
So is the proposal to add X amount of hours, and what does X amount of hours?
however hours you wanna.
I mean, how much do you want to spend?
Yeah, because the
It's-
entertainment opens at what time?
Well,
What time's the entertainment?
I-
5 in the morning?
So what they were doing this week is one was coming. I don't know, 3 o'clock maybe?
Yeah.
4 o'clock, and then he would stay until. Let's just say 6 o'clock, and then they would switch. So the other security guard would come here, he would go over to the pool.
So I'm
And
assuming,
then it was like crossover, so they all got
And what time is the entertainment accessible in the morning?
5 a.m.
5 a.m.
And you all don't come in until 9.
So maybe we could have a guy come in at 5 a.m., stay here till.
No,
9 o'clock.
I don't
Yeah,
think,
see,
we don't need that type of security, you would need it in the afternoons.
Okay.
That is the time,
and weekend?
weekends.
I think the pool needs the evenings because Carl does a lot of work with talking with the teenagers about appropriate behavior and.
Well, that's how you-
Well, that's how he has been here.
Here too.
A bunch of kids.
So
Yeah,
it
you-
has to manage cost and need,
So-
because we can't have them here all the time,
let's
so
just lay it out.
prioritize.
So the price right now is $1,080 a week.
It's $28 an hour.
So $1,080 a week for what we have to offer right now. If you're asking to double that, obviously that's going to double the price instead of being,
Just quickly, because they're at the pool till 8, this would be till 10, so it would be a little bit
No,
higher.
they were at the
Till
pool.
10? I'm
The
sorry.
2 to 10.
And understand that,
Oh, yeah.
and is it not correct during this, the pool is for a finite amount of time? Or is it year round? Because if it's year round,
Well,
it was year round.
it was year round,
Equipment.
but now is when we call it the pool, it's not just the pool.
it's the pool.
It's the beach, it's the boat launch,
The facility.
it's the docks. The two areas in history where we've had problems is here and there. Not so much at the dam, but most of the problems are there with people, members. They're not members of the community. So. I think we need them, we do need them at the pool now, because of the time of year, it's getting warm. And we do need something here as well.
Do you have a proposed
I do.
plan?
Just to clarify, through the end of this year, this is not in the current budget,
I
so
already
we would
told
be
you.
exceeding budget
Yeah.
by.
But it was in the premise of the assessment. Was the thought, if you go through the language of the assessment, when I put that together, that we may need to add security, and some of that was into the.
You know,
So from your,
I'm sorry,
I was just gonna say, so 46,000 from that, you gave us a number before
No, it was
minus.
just, it was extra, X amount of money.
So we took about $10,000 out for this. There's some leverage with some monies, which would be automatically directed towards this line item.
No,
Hold on
I
a second.
think you, with your,
You good? Yeah.
you guys, you gotta be careful
Mhm.
with your finances on where you're putting, some of this is operational cost. And some of it is,
100%.
it's, you know, so, and that's what, one of the things when we were leasing the gym equipment, I had a problem with the way we were leasing it because it's in the assessment. I think you gotta watch how you're spending. If we're getting a windfall where we're getting X amount of dollars in from a violation that's coming in and you want to use that, that's, if you're earmarking an income for that, that's different. But I think you gotta be careful on how you're putting costs over to the assessment.
The
All right,
point,
so we have an approved operating budget with a security cost in it. If we're not going to be increasing that, then Michael, I'll put it over to you. How are we going to cover both areas until we have our next operating budget with the $1,080 a week that we're paying now? And what's, because I think staffing and management of who goes where and when is really, I don't think that's a board level issue, and we certainly want to let you run that as you need to, Michael. So what's the plan with that? If there's an increase that's needed, we need more staffing and there's a cost associated with that. We're going to have to figure out how we might manage that otherwise in this operating budget, but it doesn't seem we're going to be able to do that. So what's the plan and what's your recommendation on staffing?
That's a lot.
Oh, it's
I don't,
Sir, come around the other.
I don't have a plan yet, Patrick.
Okay.
I've never been. I've never had this situation where we've, in all of my history, where we've worked so close. And so I don't know where we can cut. I mean, I can start looking at that. You're talking about having a workshop. We could work it out a little bit. Maybe we could do, maybe they could do 4 hours at each location for right now.
Hold on a second, Tom.
So I agree with Michael on putting a workshop together, but I would like to invite Carl to that meeting. I like his perspective on when is he the busiest or having most difficulties with his staff, and now that we're gonna have 2 facilities to kind of watch. I'd like his input on what he sees and what he has to deal with. And with him and his staff, and we put it at the workshop and.
I also think, instead of looking at this problem as a year problem, we can look at it as a 3-month problem. And just say for 3 months, and that costs at another $10.80 per week is about $14,000, $15,000 to commit to saying we can have double for it's not a massive number. I think it's a doable number, and then we will re-eval this maybe back in September to see if we need both with Carl, and we could have that meeting early with him where we can start planning for that in advance a little bit.
I think the other thing of it is that we don't know right now.
Right.
And we need to kind of see how the flow, because right now, I was in there yesterday, there's a lot of young kids.
Yeah.
I mean, both young teenagers, so, but we don't know what the season's gonna look like when we go into the fall, people going back to school. I just think we need an opportunity to kind of look at what that trial period looks like. I think that's 1,000% fair. It's just a matter of, we're gonna need additional money. Yes.
Well, and it's worth the conversation too. We're assuming it's going to cost X. It's worth a conversation with the vendor to understand what their needs are and what we can get in terms of better contract terms. Joel, I see you have your hand up. I want to recognize you.
I'm sorry, Joel. You're next.
No problem. So how much is the security budget now? I remember somewhere being about 80,000. Is that still a good number? Does anybody know? I don't have the numbers in front of me. So I don't know.
We're looking, hold on.
Give me like 2 minutes.
1 second, Joel.
Sure. And I'm just saying, it's like, I don't know, and like I was talking about before, is there anything with cameras that they would be able to be at one place and then monitor the other with cameras?
It's 80,000 for patrol, sir.
Doubling up.
80,000.
Put us at 112,320. So if there's a difference of, about $30,000, right? So
But I also think, like with the pool house, I don't think you need to maintain that. Like once the entertainment gets up, can we close the pool house down and just, move everything over to the main?
That's what they were saying. I don't know if that's possible.
Yes, we can do that. We can do that when the pool closes, Joel.
Right.
But we have cameras, we're going to, we can watch both facilities or all of our facilities.
Mhm.
But now there's now you're putting a bigger ask on them, which we have to look into is now if there's a problem at the pool and we have to travel over there. Now we're dealing with mileage and staffing, and it's okay if Carl or Blair are here, they own the company, but if they have somebody else, now it turns into, because I've asked Carl about that.
You're getting to my point.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So, in talking to Carl, there would be an expense if we're asking somebody to work here in the entertainment for 4 hours and then work at the pool house for 4 hours. Unless we're going to provide a specific piece of transportation, like, a golf cart or whatever, where they can get back and forth. Because that's going to be an expense for their employees or whoever it may be.
I'm sorry.
It'll take an hour.
Because. What's that?
Yeah.
Michael,
I'm just throwing something out.
just to kind of keep this rolling.
Yep.
We're talking about a workshop. What do you need from us today? What were you looking for us from
Well,
us today?
I wasn't looking for anything, just for.
It's on the
So
table.
if we could move this to a workshop,
Yeah.
is that an acceptable outcome for you today?
we're,
Yeah.
for right now,
I agree with.
for right now, we just have to look at this through an objective lens. We are $8,000 under budget right now, so we're good to do what we need to do, at least in the interim.
And
Until we can get a
then
decision.
we can make a decision. Patrick, I propose, from what Dan is saying, we have the runway to at least account for the next few weeks. But we need to workshop it. I am 1,000% on the same page as Alana that we need to look at the next. Say, just take this at a 3-month snap just to get through the summer, workshop it and then decide what that looks like. I also think bringing in Carl or some representative from that firm will give us some color. Maybe there's some opportunities to negotiate, but we need to workshop this out.
Yeah, that's, and Chris is right. We need to move along. We still have a lot of other things on the agenda, so we're going to table the rest of this discussion and workshop it. I just want to point out one thing for the members of the community. We do have a contract with this security company, and it's not as though we can, you know, when it appears in the darker months of winter that maybe folks aren't using the facilities as much. We can't just sort of cancel that and make them an on-call service. It doesn't work that way. So our security costs, which are budgeted for, are spread out throughout the year. So it's not something we can just switch on and off. I just wanted to make that point. All right, we got to move on. We have a lot of other management items to get through, committees still. Michael, so if we can quickly go through the mailboxes at the townhouses is next.
We did hear back from the Attorney General. We sent 2 certified, Attorney General, Postmaster General, sorry.
We really.
I escalated. We did hear back from the Postmaster General. They think that everything's okay, but if we have any questions, we could call them. They've given us a number. To no avail, we haven't been able to speak to anybody. So it is still an ongoing issue. Chet's been working on it. It is unbelievable. I thought Emma Green was there. The postal service is so dysfunctional.
But plow truck hit it, what would happen?
He's giving us the okay to go ahead and buy over.
Huh?
He's giving us, it's okay to go ahead for us to put those boxes. I really don't get.
Unless a plow truck.
I spoke to you personally. Who'd you speak to? Bill Thompson. Man, has been in the post office for years.
Where is he from?
He ran Monticello.
He's not running.
Retired. He used to be, everything came under him. And what he's telling me is that the post office is in favor of doing something like that. So I don't understand what that.
Well, they ought to talk to the higher ups. The locals didn't want to do anything, so we had to escalate it higher.
Well, yeah.
Where does it sit now? Where did this sit now? So right now.
TBD.
TBD, all right, yeah,
Still.
let's go ahead. Patrick, let's go ahead.
All right, next item.
Well, hold on, Patrick, Marcy, your hand is.
No.
raised.
Earl, I don't want to.
Hold on, Marcy, we see your hand
Okay.
raised. Answer your question when we open it up at the end of the session. All right, go ahead, Patrick.
Thanks. I appreciate that. We wanted to get an update on the Goose Adling situation and get a report from Michael on how that all went and where we stand.
The adult. Everything that was done back in the end of April.
Okay.
Alana's got our.
I got that.
I didn't see the report. It was sent right to Alana, so I.
So, Alana, can you speak to that, Alana, because there was a couple of
Yeah,
questions.
so Lakes Committee, I was at their meeting on May 4th. At the time, I was the only board member there. I said I would be happy to follow up with the office in very quick fashion. The 22 report and the proposal for 23 was sent over and was forwarded to Rich to disperse to the larger committee. And then the following week, Brittany emailed me with the 23 report as soon as it came in, which was also forwarded to Rich. So Rich has all the updates, and I let the committee know that if they had any issues with The locations, because there was a mentioning that maybe some of the locations were missed, that they should discuss that with management moving forward, and then maybe in the following year, some additional locations could be added, but they have done, the office has been great, very
Thank you.
helpful and forwarded to the appropriate committees.
So I didn't get an opportunity to look at the report, trust you 1,000%. In the report, did they provide locations and some type of verification?
There's a map.
Maps, perfect.
It's they're federally protected birds.
Okay,
So we have to fill out get a permit every year with the the government, and the nests are GPS. And they're pretty much end up going back to the same place. However, if, you know, these guys just run around in a day and they ride around Davies Lake, they ride around Miller's Pond, they ride around Lake Louise Marie, and they ride around Treasure Lake. They're just coming through and looking to see if they see something. They are not going up into your juniper bush in your backyard if there isn't a nest there. So if somebody does see a nest that has been in their backyard and has been there for years, it's important to let us know that that nest is there so we can put that on next year's list to see what it is. Now, the egg addling is different than molting. The influx of birds that we see in the summertime has nothing to do with the egg addling. That's just goose that are flying over and they can't fly anymore. So they got to stop here and they hang out for 3 weeks because it's nice and green, all this beautiful grass to eat. We stop and we hang out for the summer, and that's why they're here.
You write them
All right.
violations.
so to kind of close this off and move forward, I thank you, Alana, because I wanted to make sure that was resolved. Rich has the report. Rich, if you have any questions, you know, let's take that offline and just kind of follow the proper channels, and Alana will support whatever issues that come up. So for this, Patrick, you can go ahead and move on to the next.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say too, for the community members, if there are spots you think have been missed, please notify the office and they will make sure that they're on the list for next year. Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is dog park maintenance and improvements. We've gotten some reports and you know, personally, I've been there and witnessed it. I want to make sure we're maintaining the dog park and seeing what we can do to improve, particularly around the entrance. It's a little, you know, muddy and difficult to get into. And at least the last time I was there, it was in need of a good mowing, but maybe that's been done in the meantime. So Michael, can you just give us an update on that and what efforts management are taking to maintain and improve the dog park?
Well, during the winter, there was, or one of the storms, there was a branch that come off the pine tree that should have been cut down years ago that will damage your dog park. But anyway, a limb come down and hit the part of it. So the fence has to be fixed. There's a lot of issues with getting into the dog park. The gate location is pretty poor. So we're looking to get that moved around to the more to the side instead of coming off the driveway, because in the wintertime, the snowbanks, the ice, we do use rock salt for our treatment. It's not good for the dogs, their feetsies. So we're looking to move that around and do that area much better. There is some, over the years, the fence there, the ground has wore down a little bit. There's stumps sticking, the roots are sticking up. So that's all going to be addressed within time.
And we're handling that all in-house, right?
Yes.
Great. What's the trajectory in terms of the time? I mean, it seems to me like that's something, certainly not a priority over the pool, but something that we can get done over the summer here and there, right?
I always like to shoot far out by January 1st. We'll get on it as soon as we can. I can't give you the trajectory. We got we have, I think we'll end up doing most of the yard work that has to be done around here in-house to help save with the grass and the stuff that has to be done here, so we'll try to fit that into it in the next few years.
Is it possible just in the interim to maybe just put some bags of stone down on the path that goes in, and that'll give us enough time to just move the gate? Because I think that's what people are saying is it goes down that.
Well, there's a couple of roots that are sticking. It's more than just
A couple
throwing,
bags.
yeah. And we have tons of stone and stuff to put that, we'll get it taken care of.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other hands up on that issue?
No,
Okay.
go ahead and move on.
Great. So with thanks to our New York State Assembly member, Aileen Gunther's office, we were able to arrange a pop-up with NYSEG, which took place this past Thursday. The idea was that you could, there would be a customer service representative on site at Emerald Green. You could bring your bills in, address any billing or service issues that you had in real time with them. So I don't know, Michael or Brittany, I was unfortunately unable to attend in person, even though I'm one of those customers with a big issue, and I'm working it out with them, but would have loved to have been there, but couldn't be. Were other folks able to take advantage of it? And do you have a little report on how that went?
It was 17 customers.
Great.
Which was pretty good. Our issue has been worked out with the pool.
Great.
Problem with us at the pool is that we were on a commercial demand, three-phase demand on a residential bi-monthly route. So we are now back onto a commercial route. Why they couldn't figure it out that months ago, but it was very good. They were here. I don't think there was much. I don't think there was many people that really had a lot of problems. Just some. There was one woman that I don't even know who she was, even if she was from that community. She wasn't billed. She was on auto billing and hadn't been billed for a year and a half. And
All
of a sudden they wanted $8,000.
One thing that was important for, I feel, the community to remember about this NYSEG, it wasn't we facilitated it, but it was something through the Assemblywoman and through NYSEG. So although we facilitated it, because I had a lot of people asking, is there going to be a Zoom option? Are we going to do it again? When is it going to be the next? So it was just kind of facilitated here, but it was all the Assemblywoman and NYSEG.
Great call. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but it arose out of our having had the assembly member in a couple of months ago, and that conversation, and it seemed to be one of the big concerns that our state rep could help us with. So I'm glad it went well. To answer the question of whether we'll do it again in the future, hey, I'm happy to stick on it. I think it sounds like it's really successful, and maybe it'll help out if we do it, once a year or twice a year, but no promises. And as Brittany correctly points out, it's not something that is managed or run through EGPOA, even though we're helping to push. It's really managed by NYSEG and the Assembly Member's Office. So with thanks to both of those organizations, I'm glad to hear that it was a big success. Okay, unless there are any questions on that, I'm going to move on quickly just to the board officers' access and keys for all community area facilities. Dan, I think, rightly raised this issue, which is more of business continuity planning to make sure that key board members have keys and access to all community facilities, not just access that they would have normally as members in good standing. So, Michael, I just want to quickly confirm that whatever access Dan and any other officers, and I think it's particularly important for those who are there full time, who can have that access in case there's an emergency, in case there's a need to have access to other facilities, that's happening, or something we can work out in the very short term.
Obviously this room is for you guys, as well as the plan was for committees and stuff like that to meet, to take advantage of the Zoom stuff that is here. You guys will have access to those areas. Dominic had set them up this week. I don't know if we moved anybody into that portal yet.
Well, I thought there was discussion about, is all the board members having access, or was there only certain ones? I thought,
I'm fine with all board members having it, but I thought if there's any issue,
It
at
would
least
be-
start with the officers and or the people who are there full time. That's really the intent, is that people can get in quickly.
well, everyone can have access to the board. I think Dominic, I think Friday he finalized it, so.
Well,
and-
so really, the stepping stone would be to make a document, basically to hand out to everybody that does have access. It's for these purposes, and then if your time is up, and you cannot duplicate and stuff like that, but
With the-
I would say if there's board members that do not want access, then they don't.
Why would there be any sort of form or waiver or anything?
Because if you're getting a key,
If you're not getting access to your access.
We already have,
okay,
yeah, that's your,
all right, so there's no like turn law.
They're just gonna provision. different
Perfect.
persons to have it.
That's easy then.
If
Yes.
we get organization for this, can we just have a quick rundown, like after one of the board meetings, of how to connect our computers and stuff to here to access this? Okay, thank you.
And obviously alarm code.
I just, I need once over.
All right,
Perfect.
Patrick, you there?
Yeah, all right. Michael, thanks for that. I appreciate you running down that, and Brittany too. All right, we're moving on to item D on the agenda, folks, which is our.
Hold on. From a business continuity perspective, one of the things I did want to mention, and I had conversations with Dan about that, is the updating of the executive officers on the business accounts. Michael gave me some status on that. What is up that needs to be done, Michael, for myself, Patrick, and Dan?
the next step is, all the information that you guys had signed was taken up to the, Stacy at the bank. She gets that all into their system, and then you guys have to go to the bank to, sign the signature card and stuff like that. I did try to reach out, for Stacy on Friday. She was not in the office on Friday, so left a message for her to call me Monday. She's usually pretty good about that, and we'll, once I have she's all ready for you, I'll let you guys know, and you'll have to
Is this-
fight the construction to get to Wayne Bank and sign the.
Yeah.
Is that something that typically takes like this, like 8 months for somebody to get? to this?
Typically, it does not take this long. The problem is, I had a couple of board members that were very quick and did it right away, and some couple that didn't, and the didn't, it fell through the crack on my end, and it was.
That's right. So Patrick, what I'm shooting for is to try to get that resolved by 1st of June. Whereas we are in line with what the board accordance is supposed to be within the board.
Okay, going to move to item D, financial review. We have approval of the April 2023, financial report and an update from our treasurer. Dan, turn it over to you. Board members, this is tab 3 in your board books.
So just a couple quick highlights. Overall expenses last month was 41,681. We were budgeted 81,166. Current year-to-date budgeting, we are 423,000 on a budget of 442,000. So we have now started to offset the expenditures on the insurance. So praise the Lord on that. Expense wise, we're looking at grounds, was under budget, buildings overall was under budget. Payroll was basically right on cue. Accounting, I'd asked Michael for some feedback on that because we had a larger budget than what we spent significantly, so that's to offset certain things throughout the year, so we're squared away with that. But we do need to continue to find ways to leverage our accounting. And that's pretty much our month in a nutshell. Dues continues to be a good driver. You can see as your revenue streams continue to come in, Our dues continues to really be, last month was 78% over budget, so that's like great. We have people coming clean on their dues. Late fees was 400% over budget, so we're doing great with getting that notice out there, and homeowners are coming in and continuing to pay their dues, and obviously people that are in arrears are coming and paying up on that, so that's greatly appreciated to those homeowners who've done that. Any questions as far as last month or current trends? I wanted to just try to give a broad view and numbers.
My only question, and Patrick, this is gonna be to Dan, is from a. And I don't wanna say golf course, I don't even wanna use golf course, from a Emerald Green Natural Trail / old golf course. What is are there operational costs that come with maintaining that we need to start factoring in? Because I don't see that, or we're just gonna leave it as is. Right?
That's pretty much landscaping. You mean?
Landscaping, correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's just overgrown.
Well, your previous board had earmarked by vote, by resolution, $36,000. Was it 36 or 35,000?
We can research it. For landscaping.
For landscaping and fencing.
So Patrick, at some point, we probably need to discuss that, because I, for the first time, went over there, it's grown up, bro. And I think at some point, it could become a safety issue for those persons who are walking.
I think that was some of the thoughts too, that we were looking into, maybe just doing a
gravel.
a
Yeah,
trail.
yeah, it's grown up, Patrick. So from a safety perspective, we might want to look at discussing this, not necessarily in this board. But
Well, I think the place to discuss that would be maybe oversight and maybe with overlap with long-term planning. So
Well, I
push it
gotta
back, push it back to the committees.
yeah, I gotta find the chair. I don't know who the chair is of the oversight committee. I'll track them.
But before we get, maybe I can help that committee out. What are you looking to do?
I just wanted to, it's
That's right.
grown up. I mean, and from a safety perspective, I wouldn't want myself, let alone any of the kids or any of the women in the community to literally go down there during the daytime and literally, I'm 6'3" and the grass is up to here.
Well,
So you're looking for it to be brush hog?
Yeah,
maybe
just something
alongside of the trail.
Yeah, just something.
That's something we could probably take care of.
Okay, we'll talk offline. We'll talk offline.
Is that-
But the new Emerald Green Nature Trail, AKA the old golf course.
when ATVs used to go through there, you didn't have that problem.
Right, but now, and he said a great point, because we don't have ATVs going through there and kind of beating up that, and we're trying to get that, right, they mowed the grass, so it's just something to think about it. We can move on, I'll have that conversation with my.
All right, with Earl's rebranding of the space, we'll kick it back to the committee and you and Michael can work it out.
All right,
On the April 2023 financial reports, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second,
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right. Dan, do you want to ask about that 36K income piece you found yesterday?
I didn't know if we wanted to discuss that now or after.
Yeah, just real quick. I think there's probably a simple answer.
It looks like on Friday, we took in or we offset $36,200 for a lot that was delinquent for property. Was that taken in, or was that something that we?
That's just an accrual.
So we did not bring the money in.
It was a foreclosure, so there's stuff that is written off with it. But no, it's not physical money.
So we didn't receive this.
No.
Okay.
That's where,
I know.
okay. That's where you gotta be careful with accrual and cash.
No, that was the question me and Patrick were going back and forth. We were wondering.
If I took in $36,000 like that, you guys would have heard that with a car.
Yeah, I would think you'd take a victory lap for sure. Okay,
All right.
let's move on. We're now on to item E, which is our water company update. Unfortunately, Alan Chance couldn't be with us because he's got some fun down in North Carolina. But we do have Alex and Zach I'm not sure if Zach's still, yeah, there you are.
Zach's here.
If there's really any update, that the water company wants to provide. If not, I'll point out that we have in your board books, board members, the March 2023 financials, that's tab 4, as well as the 2022 year-end financials for the water company, which is tab 5 of your board book. So if there's any update, any of the water company board members want to give, fine. If not, if there are questions from the EGPOA board members, fine. If not,
We have,
Yeah.
we haven't met,
Yeah, okay,
and we have plans to meet in the next couple of weeks.
okay.
Hopefully we could, and I really, try to talk about what we're doing right now, you know.
I guess my only question, and I brought this up 2 months ago, hydro report. Like, it's, and again, you haven't met, but I struggle on not having a report from a water perspective from hydro. I know they inspected the water, they've done some testing. Okay, even if it's an interim, we owe it to the Lakes Committee to get a pulse of where that sits, even if it's an ongoing testing regimen. Anything to add?
Can I just ask, can I just offer as a reminder that at the last board meeting, we made a request to have the water company make its meetings available on Zoom at least to EGPOA. And at that point, Alan told us that he would get us a response back before the next meeting. So I'm still waiting for communication on that.
Yeah, if you can help Zach, Alex, I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate it. But for me, we have to get this report. I don't know why we're paying a lot of money to hydro. And I assume they're taking multiple.
I don't even need necessarily a report, just results.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 2-year study. I'll send the proposal. It's a 2-year study.
So is it all done at the end or they're
It's
doing?
all done at basically at the end of it, and they're supposed to come up with a mediation on how to take care of the green blue algae if it comes up. So I'll send the reports out to you, and then you could do whatever you need to do with it.
You have to change your voice.
if I can just weigh in quickly on that too. I mean, what Michael's saying,
Should know that, I mean, he's been involved.
Yeah, it's something that's an ongoing thing.
Right.
As soon as we have information about it, nobody's trying to hold any information from the water. Listen, I can send you, if you want to see my monthly water reports, I can send you the monthly water reports. That's easy enough.
I would just ask, I would ask what's if there's no report yet, there's no interim report, we're waiting for a final report. All we have is basically testing data in the meantime. And I guess the question would be, what does the Lakes Committee really need that for? Because like, what are you going to do with that? Why not just wait for the report to actually be done?
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Yeah.
Okay. While Princeton Hydro is examining the lakes, they go out and do a lake survey. They initiate identification visually as well as chemically. And when they're doing the visuals, they would be able to identify high sources of algae, blue-green algae, where it's located, and if there are invasives. Because I had personally spoken to the people doing the investigation when they were going into the lake. That's the information we want. We don't want water quality testing results, okay, to qualify the water. That they're going to do and identify why you're getting your toxic algae. Okay, we want to see the physical outcome of what they see visually, and that's going to be put in their report.
Right. And I think the point is what Michael has been consistently saying is that piece of it is just that has to wait till the end. That's what comes naturally at the end of a study like this, as I understand it.
But from my perspective, Patrick, so
Yeah.
I can read those reports, and that's part of what I do.
Right.
So understanding the biology and the chemistry of what they're doing, you can read through that in the report and see patterns. You can see locations, if certain locations had issues more than other locations. So I want.
Yeah, so I will get the information from Michael and pass that on to Tom. And Tom can work directly with Rich to ensure that it's interpreted in a manner that makes sense. And then we can kind of get past this.
Is there any particular reason why they didn't provide us with any of that information yet?
It was a 2-year study. Something that was going to take 2 years to do.
With the finalized report as an outline, but the incremental
I
test.
understand what everybody's saying, but
That's the reason why I'm asking.
I can guarantee you guys, the water company is not holding any information from you.
No, the,
That's what.
Yeah,
we-
and I don't think it's only the water company, it's Hydro has incremental testing, we just get the test
so
results.
I'm asking that question for a specific reason, because if that's the intent and it's a 2-year study, it makes sense because the algae or whatever we're seeing is over the span of 2 years, because they're probably trying to see where it changes or what that looks like. I'm not a biologist. I don't pretend to be. So I'm just saying, let them do their job. And then when it's done, it's done.
And when it's all done, that I'm sure the water company will bow out because somebody's gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I mean, the other opposite side of that, if Tom has asked for the test results, he's owed the test results. Tom was a board member.
But
I
sometimes
can
you
give
can
you-
ask questions when you see
Yeah,
results.
the
and-
previous results.
But we have the results from
No, they've been done.
the one from Cornell, or not Cornell, who did that report?
Did that.
What about?
Well, that was actually.
You talking about the, yeah, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right.
We're testing the water every week at the water company too, so that test.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys, I'm gonna
Let's
reclaim the
kinda
floor.
wrap it up.
Yeah.
Guys,
Go
I'm gonna
ahead,
reclaim the floor
Patrick.
here and try to get control of this because we want to move on. Whatever testing results are available, we're certainly happy to provide. As Michael said, nobody's hiding anything. It's unclear like what's going to be done with that, but fine. But the report itself is not done, and as soon as it is, it will be shared. All right. Any other questions for the water company?
No, just thank you. I got the reports from Michael from the year end and from March that was asked last time, and I just have a question. If we have financial questions, is it best to send those to Bob or
Probably be.
Bob and Alan?
No, Michael, make sure Michael's talking.
Okay, okay.
It's just like an Emma Green question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to know who's the person.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, Patrick.
Okay, we're moving on to committee reports, item F in our agenda. Rich or Tom for the Lakes Committee, I would just ask that, we're already at 11:12. If you can be as brief as possible, no more than 3 to 5 minutes, and then the board has to take up one voting issue from the Lakes Committee.
I'd like to speak first because I got a bunch of stuff, so I'll squeeze it as fast as I can. So I had a long awaited meeting. I put a lot of people together, Department of Health, DOT, DEC, and Cornell Cooperative Extension. It took me a while to get together. I deal with them on a weekly basis. So as a result of that, and part of my job, I have to also have the conflict of interest board with New York City participating in that meeting to make sure that there's not a conflict of interest because I'm doing 2 different water supplies and lakes, et cetera. So they did attend for anyone that needs to know why it takes me so long to answer certain questions and information. So as a part of that, we discussed the first was the koi fish. They find out an invasive species, which they do rebreed. They're not sterile like the original grass carp that we had. They said that we can fish them as much as we want. If we want to move that along further, we go to electro fishing, where you use like fish survey, they would come up, you scoop them out and get rid of them. They like to see them removed from our lake and not wash over the dam, go downstream, reproduce and cause problems. As far as the carp goes, they know the carp do tend to live about 20 years, even though we're not seeing them. Alex and I are in the water and we see them. They're dwindling the numbers, but they can live up to 20 years. We cannot, under any circumstances, resupply those carp because of the auxiliary spillway that we put in, because they have potential during a heavy rainstorm to wash over. And there's no appurtenances or anything we can put on that dam to prevent that from happening. So we will never be allowed to put the grass and carp in again. As a result of that, we're going to have issues with grass, again, algae, which is part of the program with Princeton Hydro. There's ways of dealing with that, but because it's our water supply, there's a tremendous amount of things we cannot do or use. We can use, which the New York City DEP uses for the water supply, is copper sulfate, is something, but DEC, because that's a regulated substance, has to do that application, and we would have to go through that process to have that done. That would help control our grasses and or some of our algae, specific to Lake Louise Marie. Now, we also talked about the protected species in Treasure Lake, and there's different things that can be used to control some of the algae there, because it's not a drinking water supply. That's stuff I can talk about with Rich about, and Margaret and everybody about what we may be able to do to take care of that. And the next item we covered was Davies Lake. Davies Lake, because we're changing the wastewater plant, not only is it gonna have a hydraulic difference with the different flows coming in, it's gonna have a limnology change, it's gonna have temperature changes. Everything about Davies is gonna have a drastic change, and that's something that we need to be sort of, from a lakes committee, and health of that lake is going to change because of the wastewater plant. It's a little bit of a longer term study, because that plant is not changing this year, but it's something that we need to plan ahead of and take care of, especially if people love to fish in Davies Lake. That's gonna be a large change there as well. We also discussed, the pipes that Marcy and Brad did the survey on, one of the biggest ones, which is the DOT comes in, and the current job that they're just starting, if anyone's noticed on the exit, is the pipes that come off of 17 that drain directly into our lake. Should we wish to sample those, we can collect them, or we might go to get Cornell to help us with those things there, to collect some samples of those pipes, because that's really the most amount of stuff that they're considering, and that could be some of it, what an issue on those. I'll just leave it at that for now, since I only had 4 minutes, and I think I'm really right about that.
Do you need a drink?
That was well done. Thank you very much, Tom. Rich, I gather you have stuff you want to add. And
Yes,
wonder if you can
okay.
challenge you to beat Tom's time.
I can't find me. Hang on. Full screen.
You're speaking, Rich. We can hear you.
We hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Joel needs to discuss the fish stocking, which is timely, and then I'll come to the speed with you.
So my ask would be, Rich, can you connect with Joel and Tom offline? And
No, I
kinda-
just wanted to get approval, because I have a bill that's about $7,000. We haven't incurred it yet. I just want to get the okay from the board to go ahead and do the fish stocking. That's all. And then,
Okay, I mean, Patrick, you want me to?
Is it in our budget?
I believe it is. I believe it's in the 15,000 that was allotted for the
Give me a
lakes.
second.
Okay.
Give me a second, Dan needs to scrub it real quick. Can we do this? Can we push pause on that, Joel? I'll make sure we
Sure.
come back to the next report, give him a chance to
No.
verify it.
Sure.
We'll pick it back up. All right, go ahead, Patrick, next report.
Well, hang on. We have
No, we have the speed.
voting item. Rich, can you give a 30-second overview on what the
Yes.
voting item is
Okay.
and what policy the board is being asked to enact?
All right, we are asking that the board and the bylaws committee amend the statements in our documents about gasoline engines to include high-speed electric. The operation of high-speed electric watercraft are prohibited from use on any of our lakes. We have done the research, we have the background information from the state. We believe that 5 to 15 miles an hour is the maximum speed that any electric vehicle on the lake should be going. If it is a power vehicle, we can't control windcraft. And we already have realtors advertising to bring your jet ski onto the lake. And when one of the lots was, one of the homes was up for sale, one of the realtors did this. It was brought to the attention of the Lakes Committee by one of our resident members of our committee, who is on the Lakes Committee and also a realtor. We are requesting that the board change the rules, notify residents, inform Lake Louise Marie that they should act accordingly to our amendments. And that a letter should go out to all major realtors informing them that it is inappropriate to recommend high-speed watercraft on our lakes.
Okay, I want to clarify one thing. There's no bylaws issue. This is a rule and regulation that the board is permitted under the bylaws to adopt. It doesn't require any bylaw change or bylaw input or any sort of member vote. So in terms of the ask that we notify realtors, I'm not sure that's part of the scope, but folks, this is at tab 6 of your board book, page 41 of the PDF. That's the proposal that's on the table you see there. Chris, I think I see your hand up. And
Motion to
Alana,
approve.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Can do,
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
motion to approve.
Second, that.
who's,
All right,
go ahead.
we're talking about, speed limiting?
Just putting it in
This
this,
is New York State law.
Okay, so what's that gonna look like? From beginning to end?
well, hold that thought. Alana, you had a question?
Yeah, here are my questions about what I have in that was presented to us. In terms of oversight of this rule, we're not having anybody literal, I think that this is difficult to impose a violation or something after. So my recommendation is to anybody who registers their boat or watercraft vehicles, that they possibly sign off that would say, if it's noticed that blah, 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 that maybe you would lose your right to put your boat in the future, like to have something like that in place. I don't know how you regulate that even, but I don't, it's very difficult.
It's what they probably
Yes,
complain against,
but just maybe to kind of,
how do you back it up?
that you sign off on like, that you've read this, that you understand that this is our policy, and just to make sure that there's some.
Go be out of the way, 50 miles an hour. no
Yes,
way.
yes, exactly, go.
The other issue with what you're saying is controlling the other half of the lake and the people that put boats in that aren't part of our group, they're part of the Louisa Marie group. So some sort of communication has to go to.
He did have
Neil
that in his thing, he says they should.
And say, hey, you need to do, now whether Camille wants to adopt that or not, it's a whole other question, but.
Well,
Alana,
it's
is that
like,
opposed-
they have to follow our rules, it's our lake.
Alana, are you
They
proposing
have
to
to,
amend
they don't do.
to the
I'm
motion?
proposing that it seems limited right now, I don't think this is actually has a scope of.
Not enforceable.
It's not enforceable. I do think that they could come back and say, do you want people to sign off like that they've read our rules and regulations when they sign up? I believe that something like that is in place, correct, when they register their vote? Is
Can
that-
I add a comment?
Sure.
Can we limit it to, Rich, can we limit it to board debate for a minute? Thanks. Can we just, I get that it's not enforceable, but what harm does it do if we pass the rule and then to affirm the rule, and then if we figure out kind of how to, we can figure out some ways to enforce or at least advise
Yes.
later on, is there any harm that would be done in affirming the rule as typical?
I don't think it's necessarily the harm. What I'm seeing is if Tom Gans goes out on the lake with an electric powered jet ski and hits 8 miles per hour and somebody sees him hitting 8 miles per hour, who's the one hitting the radar saying Tom was speeding?
There's no enforcement.
Excuse me, you're missing the point. We have a rule that there are no gasoline engines, okay? We have nothing about high speed. Who is policing gasoline engines? Nobody's out there saying you're spilling oil in the lake.
It's easily identified because you can physically see the exhaust coming out of the water from that. When Tom Gans is doing 8 miles per hour, nobody's there to justify, and now Earl doesn't like.
But if you
He's making a
register,
phone call.
That's the point.
So I guess
This
my question to the board, and that also includes you, Rich. So are we not going to move forward with the vote? Or are we going to move forward with the vote? Because for me, enforcing is a separate issue. I'm in the same context of Alana. This is something that should be no problem on adopting or updating and or modifying the verbiage as an additional law. Now, how it gets enforced, that's another issue, but I don't think that's on the table to be addressed. Is that fair?
Can I just say that there's a motion on the floor, so you can either, so we'll have debate and then there'll be a motion on the debate. You can either propose to amend the motion that's on the floor, that's been motioned and seconded, or you can vote against it when we bring it to a vote. If you're like, just moving it forward, like we could talk through this endlessly, like, if you don't like it, vote against it.
Yep.
And, or figure out a way to amend it on the fly right here, right now, but this is.
So I just want to,
think that's part of the diplomacy here, though, is that we discuss it. I mean, that's.
Just saying.
so look, I have no problem with this proposal. And I don't want us to get hung up on the enforcement of it. What I find is the boating community particularly is really a good group of people who are good at self-regulating. I don't think we've seen a lot of problems. The intent here is to really capture a class of watercraft that we couldn't even have been thought about at the time these rules were adopted. And that's really what we're no pun intended, driving toward. So I have no problem with moving forward, but I want to recognize Joel has his hand up, and then as Chris correctly points out, we have a motion and Arthur had his hand up too. So Joel, then Arthur.
Instead of tying it to a specific speed, can we say in a unsafe manner? Because you're right, like no one has a speed gun.
It's not tied to a specific speed as it's put forward right now. It's tied to New York State regulations. So we don't have, we're not putting in speed limits. We're saying follow the state law and don't have high speed watercraft, which I think is a fair way to do it.
Your deed restrictions specifically say boat, motorboat, no motorboat or powerboat other than electric powered boat. Boat is the key word here. Boat. So just boats are the only thing that are allowed. You're not allowed a jet ski. Those newer things that are coming up, you're not allowed to have them because it just says boat.
Well, I think there was discussion of other things like e-foils that are lower speed, which can be fun and are safe. And I don't know that we necessarily want to.
They have hydrofoils engines now in pontoon boats.
Arthur, you had your hand up. Or I think you wanted to comment. If you can unmute, or I can unmute you. Not sure if I can. No, you have to unmute yourself. You want to ask your question.
All right, Alex.
Got it. Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes.
General Motors is developing boats, high-speed boats that they will be on the lake. So whatever we have, it just can't mention a jet ski. It has to be any type of boat, even electric, because that's what's coming out, and high speed.
Yeah, and this proposal is worded as watercraft specifically for that reason. We're not limiting it to any particular type of watercraft because it's not the thing that's on the lake, it's the speed at which it goes. That's the thing we're trying to capture.
I agree with you.
And staying within the state regulations.
I think my point in bringing this up is it's probably easier enforced if you make a no wake. So that way somebody observed a wake and then that is enforceable. If you're putting a speed limit in place, that's not enforceable because there's nobody out there, but at least a wake is.
I would just, sorry, Alex.
Yeah, but with those oil things, it's not gonna be weak. Right. You're going 30 miles an hour.
The surfboards
Yeah.
and longboards making excessive wakes.
Okay, Hal has his hand up. I want to,
Does the
Guy-
community know what the state law is? When everyone's saying state law, do you actually know what it is?
5 knots within 100 feet of the shore.
Thank you. So if you do it's actually, I think it's 100 yards now, like something like that.
100 something.
Okay, so if you go 100 yards from the right and 100 yards from the left, I will do this much up the middle.
That's why I put a.
all right, guys, I gotta reclaim this, guys, I gotta reclaim the floor here. We're having a board debate. Hal has his hand up and I want to recognize Hal as a board member to debate the question on the floor.
I'm gonna, just for the sake of discussion, I think we need to shelve the vote on this right now and get into further discussion, maybe as a board in a workshop. But let me just say, watercraft is the right way to describe this. I also think you want to include snowmobiles because there are electric snowmobiles out there too, people. And I don't think we want that scooting across our lake either. So
Snowmobiles are allowed on the lake.
But snowmobiles are allowed on the lake.
yeah, but maybe they shouldn't be.
Okay, well, that's not
It's
on
a
the table
separate
to be
issue.
discussed.
All
That's
right.
not
I
on the
don't
table
think
to
it's
be
a separate
discussed.
issue. I think that's why I think we should floor this and bring it all up at the same time.
You making a motion to table? Chris?
Yes, I second that motion, Chris.
I'm not making.
No, we're not making a
Hold
motion
on,
to table.
hold on. Chris brought the motion up to the table. I'm going to second it.
Sorry, second.
30 seconds.
All right,
second.
so
Wait, time out. Hal made a motion to table. Is there a second on that? It's a subsidiary motion. All right, hearing none, we're back to the original motion, which is on the proposal itself. Are there any other questions? Any other board members who wish to be heard on the issue? Hearing none, it's been first and seconded. We'll take the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any recusals?
I'm
Any
thinking, are we gonna talk about this, even though we've been talking about it for the last 10 minutes?
W-
If you want us. to
No,
strike-
I think what we're saying is, all we're doing is adopting a rule with no enforcement, period. We're just adopting a rule.
It's already in our,
They're just adding one little bit of language. That's the. change.
Adopting a rule, no speeding, no enforcement.
And the word watercraft overboard.
It's very simple. Follow the state law in terms of speed and no high-speed watercraft.
15 miles an hour. That's the speed limit now.
Can I clarify?
We're in the middle of a vote here. I mean, the time to debate this was when I just asked if other board members had questions or notes for debate. I think the debate is closed. It appears to me that the ayes have it. Is there anybody who's recused? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the motion is passed. We can always revisit it. We can always change the rules. We can workshop it later if there are things we want to add. But for now, this is a proposal that's been kicking around from the Lakes Committee since January. I'm happy to have brought it to the floor and get it passed. Rich, is there anything else from the Lakes Committee?
Do you want to discuss anything about dock slips?
I don't believe we have that on the agenda right now, but
The dock slips you had mentioned during lakes that you were gonna table because you were waiting, because we all went to long range planning and you were waiting them to do their survey until you were gonna finalize that. Is that correct, Rich? We had an email about that to confirm.
yeah, the doc slips have been issued for the year. I think it's better to put that back in committee and you guys can work that out and then bring that back up to the full board for whatever it is that you need to have considered.
Can we
Also
bring it up
just-
before the end of the year?
Oh, it would be like, once long range, the next step was long range planning was gonna do theirs, and then we were gonna meet again after their survey results. That was what we talked about. I believe that was, we
Yeah,
did that meeting, yeah.
So that's what I was told, and Patrick, just for your context, that this will not be an issue that will be addressed in oversight. It'll be driven by the Lakes Committee in partnership with Long Range.
Okay, all right. Thanks,
Also
Rich.
just to-
So is that it for Lakes Committee?
Just
No, what
for-
about my fish? What about my fish, guys? Was it in, you were gonna check the budget?
Yes, we found the budget, we found the budget.
So it's not necessarily budgeted as fish, it's budgeted as
$15,000.
we have an annual
15,000.
budget for repairs and maintenance of $15,000.
So,
So are we okay with me spending the 7 on the fish?
no, we're okay with the community spending the 7, unless you want to put it out your pocket.
Yeah,
No, I don't wanna do that. I just don't wanna.
it's
No, we're good.
it's been allocated for. I don't think we need to take a board vote to approve it.
No, that's fine. We don't
Joel,
need
you're
to-
good. You're good. You're good.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Gonna move on to the bylaws committee. The bylaws committee met in late April after our last regular board meeting. Our next bylaws committee meeting is this coming Tuesday at 4 p.m. Notice will go out to the community. What is left on the table right now is a proposal that was approved at the bylaws committee level, is coming now to the full board for consideration and approval. And if approved by the full board now, will go out in a packet at our annual meeting to homeowners for consideration and approval. I want to be clear, this will not most likely be the only bylaws change that will be proposed for community vote at the next annual meeting. This is just one that we're putting forward right now. This is the first. The bylaws committee is still working on sifting through some potential ambiguities within the bylaws, just cleaning things up. And we'll see if we have any more work for the full board to do before our next annual meeting. But for now, tab 7 of your board books, board members, page 44 of the PDF, is a proposal by the bylaws committee to make the bylaws committee a standing committee under the bylaws. So in other words, it won't be one of the ad hoc committees that's appointed each term, where the president sets it up and appoints chairs and that sort of thing. Membership of the committee is discussed in this proposal you can see here. And I'm happy to just read it out in case folks don't have it's very short, in case folks don't have this in their board books, and then I'll entertain any questions and then we'll move on this. The bylaws committee shall be a standing committee charged with 1, providing advice to the board or any board member on the board met on the board's or any board member's request for interpretation of the bylaws. And 2, from time to time, at the request of the board or at the committee's own initiative, analyzing the bylaws of EGPOA for the purpose of proposing revisions to the bylaws. The board shall determine and propose bylaws changes to be submitted to the membership for approval. The bylaws committee shall have up to 9 members. The president of the board shall serve on the committee along with up to 2 other current board members who may be removed and replaced by the board at any time. While it may be desirable for non-board members to include professionals who have had experience with bylaws and contracts, either professionally or in the context of personal experiences, this will not be a requirement for service on the committee. The non-board members of the committee shall serve for staggered terms of 3 years, with the initial non-board members to be appointed by the board and divided into equal classes of 1, 2, and 3-year terms. A non-board member shall be eligible for reappointment by the board at the end of his or her term for a new 3-year term. Non-board members of the committee may not be removed by the board. Vacancies among non-board members of the committee may be filled by the board for the balance of the vacating committee member's term. Okay, that's a mouthful, but the intent here is to make the bylaws committee effectively outside of political control by the board, which is a good intention. The bylaws committee, I can report, had a lot of debate about additional language that was proposed in terms of the powers and the scope of the bylaws committee. And this is the language that we compromised on and ultimately agreed on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the board to see if board members have any questions on the proposal.
So Patrick, I've been in partnership with you on most of those meetings. I think I've missed one. I've always been in agreement and contact. I think my only concern is for a non-board member to not be able to be removed for any purposes, not necessarily saying the board has the right to remove a non-board member from this committee. I just struggle with that, but my issue is not substantive enough to not move this forward. I'm just kind of giving you my context. Other than that, yes, we've debated this countless times. And I'm in agreement with the context of all other verbiage that sits within this new bylaw, with the exception of a non-board member who cannot be removed by a board member. Okay, I'm fair with that. So can a non-board member of this committee be removed at all?
And I equally share that concern. Thank you for the comment, Earl.
Right.
You know, wasn't my preference, but obviously we was willing to compromise.
I think we lamented and compromised on this, so.
Right. And in full disclosure, I voted in favor of this at the committee level because, again, it was a compromise. Hal, you have your hand up?
I do, thank you. I'm just going to reiterate what I've said in the past when this has come up at our board meetings. I'm not in favor of this concept. I think it concentrates a little too much in the hands of too few. I don't think there's a need for this. And that's it. I'll wait for the vote.
Okay. Fair point. Any other board members, questions? Concerns?
So just be clear, this would be moving it to a vote of the members. Is that what we're
Yes.
asking?
So yeah, just to set the procedural stage, if we approve this as a board, we're sending it out for recommendation. Let me take that back. We are sending it out for consideration and vote by the full membership at the next annual meeting, you know, late summer, Labor Day time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I feel like I still feel like this is trying to this is a solution for a problem that doesn't exist, but I would ask that either we amend it right now to include some way for the committee to remove members who are, you know, its own members who are not
obstructionists or something.
Yeah, or that we send it back to the committee just to add that on their own. But I feel like, you know, that's they have more they have more security in their seats than we do. I mean, like, you can't remove them for anything. That seems a little bit much.
So,
Sure.
so one option would be
Concern is
to,
very good.
sorry, Dan?
Go ahead, Patrick.
I was gonna say one option would be to make a motion to amend and just strike that sentence out.
I'm okay with that.
Just a thought. I'm not making a motion. I'm just throwing that out there as a point. Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah, Dan.
Again, the same concern, do you don't know what happens down the line, you know, if you have somebody that's really obstructive, or maybe they're stacking the deck on this committee and they're creating something. I mean, it just sounds like it's a pathway of
Contention.
more than contention, obstruction. But if it's possible to remove the complete anti-removal or however you want to word it.
Patrick, I'll propose an amendment to the bylaw that says that the bylaws committee may remove with a vote of at least 2/3 of its membership to remove for cause.
So that would be the bylaws committee or the board?
The bylaws committee would have the right to remove someone based off of 6 out of 9 votes.
Yeah.
Because if the bylaws committee has
I don't think.
has 9 members and the bylaws committee decides, hey.
Okay.
Earl is not appropriate for whatever reason, it's agnostic of whether I'm a board member or not. And then they decide, hey, we are going to remove you, 6 people vote. From the committee, purely from the committee.
I think it should be a simple majority, but okay.
Yeah, I'm fine, either or. And really, so for that context, Patrick, it is addressed solely within the committee. The committee has the right to remove someone. Has nothing to do with the board member being on the committee. This is a committee decision.
But they can't remove they can't remove one of the 2 sitting board members. They can't remove one of the 2 sitting EGPOA board members.
Yeah, what you're proposing, Chris, is relative to removal for non-board members of the committee.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
removal for non-board by the committee itself. I mean, if I introduced an amendment that allowed the EGPOA board to remove members, then this bylaw there's nothing there, right? This is a non-bylaw change. So it's a proposal by a vote of 2/3 of the committee of the bylaws committee can remove a non-EGPOA board bylaws committee member for cause.
Okay, is there a second on Chris's motion?
Second.
Great. So on the motion to amend, which amends, just to be clear, the sentence where it says non-board members of the committee may not be removed by the board, that'll be stricken, and in place we'll read, Chris, could you give me the language?
Drafting verbally. Board
Non-board members.
Non-EGPOA committee member, non-EGPOA board committee members may be removed from the bylaws committee by a vote of no less than 2/3 of the bylaws committee.
Because
has to be a good reason.
But a lot of our bylaws are, our bylaws are 2/3 or majority? If we sent out a bylaw change right now, would it be 2/3 or a majority?
Two-thirds.
Okay, so we should, all right.
Just do majority.
So, Chris, I just want to double check the language so that folks know what they're voting on. We have a motion that's been made and seconded, which would strike the sentence non-board members of the committee may not be removed from the board and replace it with non-board members of the committee may be removed by a vote of no less than 2/3 of the bylaws committee. And I'm sorry, I missed if there was any additional language there or is there not?
No, I just called.
We just leave that out. Maybe removed. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay, so with that, all in favor of the amendment? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions?
I'm going to say just because I.
He doesn't say yes or no.
I abstain.
Wait, you'll get me.
Hal, you abstain?
Yes.
Hal abstained,
I
Alana
abstain
abstains.
also,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other abstentions? Hearing none, the motion to amend passes. Now, as amended, is there a motion to approve the bylaws committee provision?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Joel seconds. Although, any debate, any questions?
I would just say, I'm going to vote for this because I believe the members should have a chance to vote on it. I don't actually think it's a good idea, but I'm happy to
Let them do it.
I'm happy to give members a chance to weigh in.
I can spend money in postage.
Well, you gotta go out.
Yeah, it's gonna add featherweight to it. I agree with you, Chris. I don't think this is necessary. I think it's a solution in search of a problem as well, but be that as it may, I do think having the community members decide on it is better than us. So I'm prepared to vote in favor of the provision.
Me too.
Any other comments, questions? With that, I'll take the vote. All those in favors, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
I oppose.
One opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion,
Missed the whole thing.
Alana, I'm sorry, is that a abstention?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Alana abstains. With that, the motion passes. Thanks, folks. And that's all I got for the bylaws committee. Who's next?
Oversight's quick. All right, take care, Zach. Being that the boat policy has been punted back down to the boat dock policy has been punted back down to the LC. We had active debate over the last month around the boat storage. I'll be presenting to the board a quote unquote good, better, best approach. So we've been able to negotiate 3 options. That'll be put in writing, sent over to the board for review consideration to see how we can workshop the boat storage area. I did have active conversation with both Michael as well as Brittany, so I have their disposition on it. Outside of that, there was some conversations around security, but those were resolved and spoke about earlier today by the town supervisor. And so at that point, there are no open issues and no additional context for oversight.
Thanks. Any questions for Earl?
Oh, I apologize. We did have on the agenda the rental policy. We didn't get to it to internally work through that and solution it amongst the committee members. So we'll pick that up as top of the agenda for the June meeting.
To clarify, we're talking about rental rules for and policies for the clubhouse, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Great. Any questions for Earl? Hearing none. Thanks, Earl. We're going to go to Hal with long range planning.
Hi, Patrick, I'm at work, remember. A customer just walked in. Can you pass me right now? Go to the next committee report? And
Absolutely.
I'll be available right after, okay?
Yeah, but pop in whenever's good. Thanks so much,
Got
Hal. We appreciate you hanging on. Chris, or Alana as new co-chair for events and or welcoming.
Most important thing on events is that we have a meeting over Zoom this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. That'll be the main item on the agenda there will be to discuss the summer calendar. So if you want to have input as a community member on the events that we're going to put together for members this summer, show up on Zoom or watch the recording on YouTube. Thanks.
Do we have a cleanup committee announcement? Is that?
You want to go through everything? Okay.
Yeah,
Lakefront-
the list.
Yeah, sure. Lakefront S'mores is this Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. There's an Evite that went out from the office if you're interested in signing up. The community cleanup will be Sunday, June 4th from 9 to 11 a.m. Meet at the pool house. The notice for that will go out either Monday or Tuesday of this week.
Okay, hold on to that point.
Yes.
Brittany, are we on the same page? Because it was brought up in my committee. There was some questions on the community cleanup. Is the 4th? Are you in line with that? The
Yeah.
June 4th is community,
Yeah.
and we can get that sent out via email.
It's already handled.
It's already handled.
Yeah, it's already all planned and handled.
I apologize.
Nope.
I've been asked to come back with an answer.
It's already handled. Chris and I interviewed the new yoga instructor or 2 yoga instructors yesterday for the position of the other day during the week. We will update the committee this week on those items. We are in draft form for the summer calendar. As Chris said, if you want input on that calendar, come to the Tuesday meeting. We are in the process of looking for the first aid AED classes for the pool attendants / homeowners. That is to be determined, as well as the fitness orientation with Joe Bacana to be determined and coming up soon. And we will be sending out a notice shortly for all teachers, experts, hobbyists who might be interested in teaching a class or a series over the summer. If you want to do Mahjong, if you want to teach a class on fly fishing, we're trying to organize people who have particular interests or skill sets to offer something to the community.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So I think there's been scuttlebutt on the unofficial page about a pickleball club. On the official Facebook page, I talked to Chris on Friday, and it is nothing that came through the official Emerald Green page, the official Emerald Green committee. So whomever sees that stuff on the unofficial page should contact the poster of the club on the, I don't.
Thank you, yeah.
Yes.
We had a lot of calls about when the pickleball club was starting up and just homeowners questioning us in the office.
So if the person running that club is one of the 13 holdouts on the call, you're welcome to reach out to Alana or me, and we can provide you some support in terms of communications to help get more turnout for that. But that's a community member running that, not EGPOA. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for Chris or Alana on events? Chris, anything more on, is there anything to add from the welcoming side?
Welcoming met last week. Recording's already up on YouTube, or if it's not, it will be today. And we're keeping rolling with that.
Thanks. All right, Joel, Finance Committee.
Yeah, the finance committee, I'll be scheduling a meeting in May, so that'll square that up. One thing though, in the for the next board meeting, if we can get an accounting of the construction costs of where we are as far as what's been collected, what's been billed. The same thing is, I believe I sent that in a memo to you guys, so if we can get that for the next one, and then also in the next meeting, if we can also get the cash fund balances, how they break down, so that the board members can see where we are. And that's it.
Great, will do, and thanks for that. Hal is back. Hal, long range planning.
All righty, so we had a really good meeting the other night, last Thursday, attended by about 8 people. We've got a wonderful woman, Jen Stiles, a community member, who's volunteered to work on putting the survey together. So we are in the process of that, and Jen's suggestion, and then the committee that decided to go with it, is that we do the survey kind of in 2 parts, possibly even 3, but certainly not 1. And that's going to be, let's gauge interest. Let's see how many people have interest in any of the 6 proposals that we have on there. And then we'll get into further detail. Well, if it costs this, are you still interested? If it costs, $40,000, $50,000, and we'll get into a little more specifics in the second round, possibly even a third round. But hopefully Jen will have something for me to preview this week. But the 6 topics for discussion in the first round is what to do with the old golf course. Are we interested in hiking trails, exercise trails, etc.? How many people would be interested in an ice rink / pole barn? How many people, yeah, I know. How many people would make use out of docks? Is that something that the community should, explore? And we expect to get good results from all of these, really. Also, how many people think that we should have a picnic area down by the Entertainium? It's been brought up about playground equipment. So we're going to ask the community's interest in upgrading the playground equipment in both locations. And lastly, do we want to improve the restrooms in the clubhouse? Since that's an area that we rent out for parties, I think the restrooms need a little love. And those are the 6 topics. Once we get the survey written, we'll let the board preview it before we send it out, and we'll take our actions after we get results.
That's great. Thank you so much, Hal. I look forward to it. I think it's really helpful in terms of helping the board too to prioritize capital projects in the future, and then doing so with member buy-in is, I think that's really the right way to handle it. So thanks for leading it.
You bet.
Questions for Hal? Okay, with none, that closes our committee reports. That is close to closing our meeting, but we do, board members have our executive session. Our next meeting is June 25th. That's our next regular meeting anyway at 9 a.m. And so with that, we'll move on to member questions. Is there anyone in the physical audience present in the boardroom who has any questions?
No, everyone, they're all gone. It's all gone.
Well, way to clear a room. All right, Marcy.
Thank you, Patrick. So I did have a couple questions, but it came up in the conversation. I just want to address it, even though I don't think there's any recourse. That the digging at exit 110 is going to be draining Route 17 into our lake. You know, we're a public utility drinking water, as everybody knows. You know, we talk about leaking gas from no gas boats, but certainly there are vehicles that leak gas that will drain into our lake. There are toxic weed killers that are used on a regular basis that will drain into our lake. And there's toxic snow melt that is also used on the road. So this is, you know, our recreational gem of our community and also a public utility. So I don't know if there's anything to be done, but I find it extremely concerning. If somebody wants to address it, Dan?
I would imagine that part of the process for the permitting and doing the roadways would get environmentals and having the DEC to acknowledge that the DEC is 100% in the know that this is drinking water, so, right, Tom?
They are, there's an item we did bring up in our conversation about the ongoing passageway and stuff that's going on. It's something that they said they would speak to the contractor about, because you got vehicles that may or may not leak, and you got that one big pipe that's right near also the wastewater pump station out in front of the neighborhood. That's the big pipe we're talking about. There's another one that does empty into Davies, but it's a whole different issue. They were gonna talk to them about it, about trying to put more controls in place, even though it is part of your plan. When you do put stuff together as construction stuff, you gotta make sure it's being put in place. So silk fences and straw, stuff like that, to try to prevent it.
So to answer your question, Marcy, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, there's active conversation that's being had by the DEC with the proprietor of that development.
There's going to be, yeah, because we talked about it
Okay.
in our group meeting.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you for the clarification. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. I had a couple that I had initially, and I, you know, it would be great if the board, and I'm hate to lay it on Tom, but he's so knowledgeable that, you know, maybe he could follow up and be sure that, you know, our safety is protected. So this question goes back to the security cameras. And I just wondered who monitors them and where are the monitors actually located?
Michael, I think that's to you.
It is. They're on our, we have, nobody sits and monitors them constantly, if that's what you're asking.
So typically CCTV goes through a database and it's stored for up to 90 days for review. So some places like ours may save them to disk drives and keep them for a year. That would be a management thing.
It's an internet cloud-based program, so it can be viewed by our management anywhere when they need to.
Right, because it was brought up that the security guards, you know, can't be in multiple places at one time. You know, I have personally seen and spoken with many people on the beach and on the dock and bringing boats in who state that they do not live in the community. So, you know, without somebody looking at it, I don't see a lot of value in that. And we don't have to debate it. I just wanted to put that out there. The other point I wanted to make is I'd like to be made available to the community. Who did the goose egg addling? What was the cost? Where did they do it? Brad and I were out kayaking. We documented 29 new babies, all born after May 10th. I know of at least one and likely two nests that I have verified that were the goose was nesting last week. And because the vast majority of our lakeside property is private homes, unless the Adlers have permission to go onto private property, I don't understand how that can be done, but I know for sure, guaranteed 29 new babies, all born after May 10th. So
17 adults.
yeah, and 17 adults, but the adults, as somebody stated, could have flown in from elsewhere, so I understand that. But the babies were certainly born here. But I would like to know the cost of that and a little more information, because it seems like it was not done properly and certainly was not successful. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Dan. I think you have the receipts, right?
Yeah,
Marcy, the receipts were all shared with the Lakes Committee, because that was a question that came through Lakes, so it was shared with Rich to then disperse to the larger group. I'm sure he's gonna share that at the next meeting.
Thank you, Alana. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Marcy, Rich just got that, so it'd probably be best to to connect with Rich and kind of get some context, and if the questions still remain, then kind of circling back to Lana, Tom, myself, but Rich has all the information. Alana did a lot of yeoman's work to try to get that information as quick as possible back. to-
And the office did also. The office got that information to us very quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll
So-
check in with Rich.
Great.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, Patrick. So Marcy, you're gonna send us an email with the locations of those nests so we can update that like we asked for when we gave the report earlier?
I did send it to Rich, so he has it with photographs of
send
them
it-
as well.
No.
Rich doesn't take care of it. If you can
Mhm.
send it to the office where the location of the nests are, so we can make
Okay.
sure they're on next year's egg addling list, because geese are creatures of habit. They go back to the same location next year.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Marcy. Any other members have any questions? Okay, seeing no other hands, thank you, everybody. We're going to move to executive session. So I'm going to ask that only board members remain in. We'll give you about a minute to please exit on your own, or else we'll
Thank you.
X
I'm
people
going
out.
to stop the Zoom recording.
Thank you.